Chapter 104. No, no. Hearing the Supreme Elixir Spirit's denial, Xiao Feng was stunned. How could it not be? If it wasn't, how did my true sun flame come about? Teacher, just admit it. Don't lie to me. It's really not. The Supreme Elixir Spirit chuckled. I just knew him from a long time ago. Am I not an alchemist? I needed a heavenly flame and was too lazy to go out and find it. So I asked him for a true sun flame. That's it. Xiao Feng was obviously stunned for a moment. He needed a heavenly flame and was too lazy to find it, so he asked him for one. This reason was too powerful. Hearing the Supreme Elixir Spirit's words, he seemed to have an unusual relationship with Shrouding Heaven Great Emperor. Don't worry, you can call yourself the successor or disciple of Shrouding Heaven Great Emperor. No matter what you say, there's nothing to be afraid of. The Supreme Elixir Spirit said something that shocked Xiao Feng so much that his jaw almost fell off. These words, if his teacher was really not Shrouding Heaven Great Emperor, he had an extremely close relationship with Shrouding Heaven Great Emperor. He could even casually say that he was a disciple or a successor. How good a relationship was this? All right, at least with this excuse, he wouldn't be casually killed in the ancient realm. Xiao Feng raised his head and saw Gu Yuan's gentle smile. He secretly felt comfortable in his heart. It was good to have an awesome teacher. He could casually say that he was a Dodi. Even a peak Dosheng like Gu Yuan had no choice but to lower himself. Nephew, when do you plan to go to the ancient realm? I'll bring you there. Gu Yuan's tone became very cordial. Now is fine. Thank you, Uncle Gu. Since he had used the Dodi as a cover, Xiao Feng was even more confident in the Supreme Elixir Spirit, allowing him to deal with a peak Dosheng with ease. It's nothing. Gu Yuan chuckled and led Xiao Feng out of the hall to the entrance of the ancient realm. This was a huge lake. The dark green lake water rippled, and a mysterious and unfathomable aura faintly appeared on the sparkling water surface. Nephew, this is the entrance to the ancient realm. Wait here for a moment. I'll open the realm gate for you. Gu Yuan greeted Xiao Feng and waved his hand to release a ray of fighting spirit light, which fell into the lake. Buzz! The calm lake suddenly surged with waves. An extremely huge spatial fluctuation rushed out from the lake. Boom! When the spatial fluctuations reached their peak, a huge, brilliant light beam shot up from the bottom of the lake and connected with the light screen that enveloped the ancient sacred city. Boom! Boom! Dazzling brilliance flashed out, and suddenly a thunderous explosion came from the sky above the lake. Crack! Crack! It was as if a huge force was tearing apart the space above the lake. Under Xiao Feng's shocked gaze, the space slowly tore apart. After a while, a black spatial gate leading to the unknown depths appeared in front of Xiao Feng. This is the spatial gate that leads to the ancient world. Nephew, please come in. Gu Yuan extended his hand and gestured to Xiao Feng, after which he released his own Do Qi and turned it into a light barrier to protect Xiao Feng. He then led Xiao Feng into the spatial door. In front of him was endless flowing light, and the brilliant brilliance flowed rapidly in the spatial tunnel. Gu Yuan led Xiao Feng and flew all the way. After a while, they appeared on the other side of the spatial gate. In front of him was an endless green grassland. The blue sky above his head was clear, and the sky was high, and the clouds were light. The heaven and earth essence qi that filled the space was extremely dense. Xiao Feng only felt that every pore in his body was greedily inhaling and exhaling the heaven and earth essence qi. In the sky, huge sky battleships whistled through the air. On the ground, huge cities dotted the verdant grasslands. The ancient world is indeed extraordinary. Xiao Feng inwardly exclaimed in admiration. He was extremely shocked by this peculiar space. Nephew, the ancient world is very vast. The heavenly tomb is still far from here. Let's take the sky-piercing flying ship there. As Gu Yuan spoke, he stretched out his hand and flicked out a ray of spiritual light. The spiritual light broke through the air and exploded into a ball of brilliant light in midair. Boom! A loud explosion sounded, and a gorgeous an exquisite, huge flying ship broke through the air. In the blink of an eye, it was near the two of them. "Nephew, please." Gu Yuan gestured to the flying ship and led Xiao Feng onto the gorgeous, huge flying ship. What a big deal! Xiao Feng saw the exquisite and gorgeous decorations in the flying ship and couldn't help but praise this extremely luxurious ride. At this moment, the supreme elixir spirit, who was very clear about Li Yu's preferences, hurriedly sent this scene to Li Yu. There's such a good thing? Li Yu almost drooled when he saw this huge and gorgeous flying ship. Tycoon. He's really a tycoon. Li Yu looked at him with disdain, and then he was extremely envious. I don't have such a good thing. I've been around for so long, and I don't even have a car. I still have to walk when I travel. I still haven't gotten rid of my identity as a loser. How preposterous. Li Yu's brows twitched, and he hurriedly instructed the system. System, connect to the supreme elixir spirit and scan this flying ship for me. Li Yu naturally wouldn't instruct Xiao Feng to snatch this thing. Let's not talk about whether Xiao Feng could snatch it or not. Even if he managed to snatch it, Li Yu actually wouldn't take a fancy to it. This flying ship was very gorgeous and exquisite, but to become Li Yu's ride, its essence was still a little lacking. As long as he scanned this flying ship and had complete information, Li Yu could use higher-grade materials to build an even more powerful flying ship. This was what Li Yu wanted. The system instantly completed the scanning task. Li Yu saw the new information about the flying ship in the resource warehouse, smiled and nodded, and cut off the system connection. The flying ship flew all the way. Not long after, the flying ship stopped between a steep mountain peak. "Nephew, this is the heavenly tomb." Gu Yuan pointed to the canyon between the two mountain peaks in front of him and smiled at Xiao Feng. The heavenly tomb is a space of its own and is not outside the Gu realm. It only opens once every 20 years, and it has only been 2 years since the last time it opened, so we can't enter. I see. Xiao Feng nodded, but he secretly asked the supreme elixir spirit in his heart. "Teacher, we can't enter now? What should we do?" "It's fine. Leave it to me. You just have to pay your respects normally." After receiving the supreme elixir spirit's instructions, Xiao Feng felt confident. He hurriedly stood up and bowed to Gu Yuan, saying, "Thank you, Uncle Gu. I only need to pay my respects once." "All right." Gu Yuan nodded and flew down with Xiao Feng, landing beside the canyon between the mountain peaks. "Thank you, Uncle Gu." Xiao Feng thanked Gu Yuan, then bowed respectfully to the canyon space and kowtowed heavily. Ancestor, unfilial descendant Xiao Feng is here to pay respects to Ancestor. At the same time, Li Yu connected to the supreme elixir spirit and said with a smile, "System, scan and search for the heavenly tomb's spatial fulcrum and find the heavenly tomb for me." As a master of the mall space, Li Yu naturally knew that for a small space like the heavenly tomb to be hung in the Gu realm, there must be a spatial fulcrum in the Gu realm. As long as he found the object that became the spatial fulcrum, the heavenly tomb would be Li Yu's. Chapter 105. Command received. Remote search scan activated. Search complete. The spatial fulcrum of the heavenly tomb has been found. The system quickly completed the search for the spatial fulcrum and displayed the results in Li Yu's mind. It's actually such a thing? This is the heavenly tomb? Li Yu looked at the image in his mind. It was a stone mill with a diameter of 2 feet that was deeply embedded in the rock. He was stunned for a long time. Was this the heavenly tomb? Or was it the heavenly mill? Forget it, I don't care. Pass the results to the supreme elixir spirit and ask him to activate the resource recovery and instruct the host to get the heavenly tomb back for me. After giving the order, Li Yu chuckled. After so long, I finally have something. No matter how powerful the heavenly tomb was, it was only something refined by Dodi. The system's recovery function could even collect things like the bronze immortal palace. Why would it be afraid of a mere Dodi's item? Li Yu expressed that collecting the heavenly tomb was as easy as taking something out of his pocket. In the ancient world, Xiao Feng was still kowtowing to his ancestors. "Kid, take away the stone at the foot of the mountain on the left." The supreme elixir spirit's anxious voice sounded in Xiao Feng's mind. Stone? Xiao Feng followed the supreme elixir spirit's instructions and looked at the ordinary mountain rock. It was an ordinary mountain rock covered in moss. There was nothing special about it. However, since the supreme elixir spirit had asked him to take it and had come so far to take it, it must be extraordinary. After kowtowing, Xiao Feng stood up. Uncle Gu. Xiao Feng turned around and looked at Gu Yuan with a sorrowful expression on his face. I came from far just to pay my respects to my ancestors. The descendants are unworthy and have not come to pay their respects for many years. I feel guilty. Thank you for your help, Uncle Gu. You're welcome. Gu Yuan smiled and said modestly, Uncle Gu, my wish has been fulfilled. However, the rest of the family cannot come to pay their respects. I feel uneasy. Is it possible for this little nephew to bring a piece of rock back so that everyone in the family can pay homage to our ancestors? As Xiao Feng spoke, he casually pointed at a mountain rock. Of course, this mountain rock was naturally the one indicated by the supreme pill spirit. What is this? Nephew, please do as you wish. It was just a stone. What was the big deal? Gu Yuan did not have any doubts at all. He waved his hand indifferently. In that case, thank you very much, Uncle Gu. Xiao Feng bowed and walked to the mountain rock. He stretched out his hand and pressed it. Keep. In the blink of an eye, the mountain rock disappeared. After the mountain rock was collected, the supreme pill spirit immediately connected the stone mill to the system and handed it over to Liu. Ha! Good. All right. When Liu saw the grindstone appear in the resource warehouse, he immediately laughed out loud. Just like that, the entire ancient world's heavenly tomb was taken away by Liu. As for whether the ancient race would suspect Xiao Feng when they realized that the heavenly tomb could no longer be opened after more than 10 years. Liu thought that since he could not deal with the ancient race after more than 10 years, he could just let him die. System, destroy the heavenly tomb spirit for me. Liu recalled that there was still a heavenly tomb spirit in the heavenly tomb. It specialized in making all spiritual energy bodies kill and devour each other. At this moment, these spiritual energy bodies were all Liu's resources. How could he waste them like that? Order accepted. It was just a weapon spirit. In the face of the power of the system, it had no power to resist at all. A formless ripple swept across the grinding stone. There seemed to be a miserable shriek. The heavenly tomb spirit was destroyed just like that. Very good. Liu nodded and instructed the supreme pill spirit through the remote connection. Supreme pill spirit, you can let Xiao Feng go back now. Yes, by the way, I'll give you the spiritual energy body and battle emperor bloodline of the Xiao clan's ancestor, Xiao Xian. You can use it to trick Xiao Feng. Since he had obtained a great harvest, he had to let the host have some soup too. Liu expressed that he was not Zhou Bapi. He was more ruthless than Zhou Bapi. Soon, Xiao Feng bade farewell to Gu Yuan. Not long after, Xiao Feng left the ancient world. Then, he met up with Ling Ying in the ancient sacred city and returned to the Jiama Empire together. Teacher, what exactly is the stone that we received on this trip to the ancient world? Half a month later, Xiao Feng returned to the Jiama Empire. After bidding farewell to Ling Ying, he asked the supreme pill spirit. Of course, it's a great opportunity and a great harvest. The grand pill spirit laughed. Little fellow, you have the lifetime chi of a peak do sheng, lifetime combat experience, and lifetime comprehension. With this thing, your strength will soar. What? Even with Xiao Feng's calmness, he was shocked by the supreme pill spirit's words. After receiving the supreme pill spirit's guidance for a few years, Xiao Feng was very clear about the strength of a battle sage. An expert with such strength could already destroy mountains and break mountains, fly in the sky, and burrow into the ground. More importantly, a battle sage could already open up space. If he had the lifetime strength of a battle sage. All right, it couldn't be done yet. He would explode. Even if it couldn't be done, Xiao Feng's strength would soar if he slowly absorbed it. Not to mention, there were also cultivation comprehension and combat experience. With these things, Xiao Feng didn't know how fast he would grow. It's indeed a great opportunity and a great harvest. Xiao Feng took a deep breath. His respect for the supreme pill spirit was indescribable. Ever since the appearance of this teacher, his encounters had really been turned upside down. Powerful Qi method and Do technique, mysterious true sun flame, and now a Do Sheng's lifetime of cultivation and experience. Xiao Feng, kid, this battle sage has a deep relationship with you. The supreme pill spirit smiled and said, "The person who left these things is your ancestor, Xiao Xian." "Ah, it's my ancestor?" Xiao Feng was shocked. "Something left behind by my ancestor? Teacher, how did you know? How did you know that my ancestor left something there?" "TSK, I know your ancestor. Can I?" The supreme pill spirit snorted. "Kid, this old man has seen a lot of things." "Ah, I misspoke. Teacher, please don't blame me." Xiao Feng smiled awkwardly. "Teacher, that's not what I meant. You are naturally omniscient. But why doesn't anyone in our Xiao family know about the things left behind by our ancestor?" "TSK, what kind of talent does your Xiao family's younger generation have? Can you enter the ancient world? If you didn't make up a pretense, would the ancient race let you enter the ancient world? If you can't even enter, after so many years, it will naturally be lost." "I see." Thinking of the current situation of the Xiao family, Xiao Feng secretly sighed. "Xiao Feng, kid, your Xiao family originally had the Battle Emperor bloodline, but your ancestor wanted to gather all the bloodline power of the family in an attempt to advance to the Battle Emperor realm. Unfortunately, he failed in the end. At this point, the supreme pill spirit sighed. This way, your Xiao family's bloodline power is so weak that it almost doesn't exist. Your Xiao family has also declined to this day. Now, this Battle Emperor bloodline has been taken back." Battle Emperor bloodline? This time, the Battle Emperor bloodline was also taken back? This surprise made Xiao Feng unable to contain his joy. After a few years of teaching by the Supreme Pill Spirit, Xiao Feng already had a deep understanding of the cultivation world. How could he not know the importance of the Battle Emperor bloodline? Clan marks and bloodline power were the foundation of the 8 ancient clans' strength. Great! The rise of my Xiao family is right in front of us. Chapter 106. I used a trick to get my hands on the ancient world's heavenly tomb. Liu looked at the heavenly tomb in the storehouse, then smiled and shook his head. The next places I'll be targeting are all dangerous. That's why I need to make a detailed plan. Liu set his sights on the ancient ruins of the Beast region. The ancient ruins of the Beast region are located in the Skeletal Mountain Range. It's the lair of the 9 abyss pythons. The 9 abyss pythons are second only to the ancient void dragons and the heavenly demon phoenixes. Xiao Feng can't go there for now. As he pondered, Liu came up with an idea. Although Xiao Feng isn't strong enough to enter the Beast region, he can make some preparations. Liu chuckled. First, I need to get my hands on the triple jade eyes and the ancient void dragon's blood. The triple jade eyes is my trump card against the 9 abyss pythons. The ancient void dragon's blood is the key to opening the spiritual barrier around the dragon and phoenix skeletons. Once these preparations are complete, Xiao Feng can go to the Beast region. The triple jade eyes is a maid under Xiao Yan's 2 older brothers. The ancient void dragon has a girl called the Brute Force Queen in Canaan Academy. These aren't hard to get. The other things in the ancient ruins are one thing. However, the ancient void dragon and ancient heavenly phoenix skeletons, as well as the peak battle saint skeletons, are all important materials for the merchant city. We can't miss them. Next, I'll get the dragon phoenix origin fruit from the dragon and phoenix skeletons. I have no use for it, but I can trade it with the dragon clan. Then, I'll be able to get to the void lightning pool from Dragon Island. That way, I'll be able to get the void lightning pool. Very good. Let's follow this plan. After making up his mind, Liu turned his attention back to the heavenly tomb. Since he'd already gotten his hands on the heavenly tomb, he naturally had to deal with it properly. Liu extracted all of the soul energy in the heavenly tomb. He extracted all of their knowledge, combat experience, cultivation insights, and pure soul energy. The rest of the energy was temporarily stored in the heavenly tomb, treating it as another energy source. The heavenly tomb also had a time acceleration function. However, Liu had the system scan it and found that it was the result of the different flow of time in different spaces. Hence, he lost interest in it. Having made his future plans clear, Liu handed over the task to the supreme elixir spirit, and he continued to immerse himself in the daily life of cultivation and opening the shop. After Liu advanced to the four extremities, he wanted to transform his limbs into the four extremities of heaven and earth. Even if Liu had enough energy to cultivate, this process was not something that could be accomplished overnight. According to Liu's estimation, it would probably take another 1 or 2 years before he could cultivate the four extremes to the Great Circle realm. Xiaofeng, on the other hand, was not so comfortable. Xiaofeng, who had just returned to the Jia Ma Empire, once again began his arduous journey. As the Supreme Elixir Spirit had given Xiaofeng a reminder, Xiaofeng had no choice but to rush to Rock Desert City to meet with Xiaoyan's two biological brothers. This was what the Supreme Elixir Spirit had told Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng, brat, since you know that the Xiao clan is one of the 8 ancient clans. Since you already know that someone has designs on the ancient Emperor's Jade of the Xiao clan, aren't you going to make some preparations? Hearing the Supreme Elixir Spirit's reminder, Xiaofeng's heart jumped. He recalled that when he was in the Gu realm, Gu Yuan had used his power to force him to hand over the ancient Emperor's Jade. Although Xiaofeng did not know what the ancient Emperor's Jade was, he understood that this item probably had a great background and would definitely attract covetous eyes. Based on the Xiao clan's current situation, if any of the 8 ancient clans were to attack, the Xiao clan would only end up being exterminated. Thinking of this problem, Xiaofeng already had the plan of a crafty rabbit having 3 burrows. He also had the idea of developing his forces. This way, the 2 clan brothers who had already gone out to make a living and had already established a mercenary group had to meet each other. After a difficult journey, Xiaofeng rushed to Rock Desert City with a face covered in dust. After randomly asking a mercenary, Xiaofeng immediately found out the address of the Desert Metal Mercenary Group. After entering the city, Xiaofeng walked towards the south of the city. After turning a few streets, a huge manor that occupied an area of a few hundred acres appeared in his line of sight. The manor was built with huge rocks to form a circle of tall and thick walls, like a castle. A huge flag was erected high in the air. On the flag that fluttered in the wind, the golden words Desert Metal Mercenary Group shone brightly. Is this the place? Xiaofeng smiled and walked towards the manor's gate. Halt! At the gate, 2 rows of tall and strong men wearing chainmail were guarding the gate with swords and spears in their hands. Seeing Xiaofeng walk over, one of the men with a dark and yellow complexion held a long spear and blocked in front of Xiaofeng. He shouted loudly at Xiaofeng, "I am Xiaofeng from the Xiao clan of Weiyuan City. Please inform the 2 captains that someone from the clan has come." Xiaofeng shouted at the man who blocked his way. "Xiaofeng, are you a member of the captain's clan? Please wait a moment. I will immediately inform the 2 captains." The man replied, then turned and ran back into the manor. After a moment, the manor's gate opened. 2 tall and sturdy young men walked out from the manor. "Ha! Xiaofeng, you are here? Quick, come in quickly." Xiaoli laughed loudly and shouted at Xiaofeng the moment he stepped out of the door. "Good lad, I haven't seen you for a few years, and you have grown up." Xiao Ding came forward and nodded at Xiaofeng, praising, "We received a letter from the clan saying that you have turned over a new leaf. Not bad, not bad. Greetings to the 2 clan brothers." Xiaofeng smiled and greeted the 2 of them. Then, the 3 of them chatted and laughed as they walked into the manor. Sitting down in the living room, the 3 of them drank wine and talked about their daily lives. After that, Xiaofeng told the 2 of them about leaving a way out for the Xiao clan and his considerations of a crafty rabbit having 3 burrows. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li had been working in the mercenary group for many years and had long fallen in love with this line of work. When they heard Xiaofeng's thoughts, they immediately hit it off and prepared to continue expanding the mercenary group to create a real force. After they finished talking, the 3 of them continued to drink. In the end, Xiao Ding and Xiao Li both rolled under the table. Xiao Feng was still not drunk, and his expression did not change at all. With Xiao Feng's current strength and the tyrannical body cultivated by the Vajra arts, a mere bit of wine was nothing to Xiao Feng. Young Master Xiao Feng, do you need a rest? At this moment, the manor servant girl had already sent the drunk Xiao Ding and Xiao Li back. Only a delicate and pretty young lady was left standing beside Xiao Feng. Oh, all right. Sorry to trouble you. Xiao Feng smiled at the servant girl and followed her to the room. As they walked, Xiao Feng suddenly realized that there were some green scales on the young lady's white wrist. Were these snake scales? Xiao Feng was curious about the young lady's identity. Chapter 107. Master Xiao Feng. As if noticing Xiao Feng's gaze, the maid hurriedly retracted her wrist in her sleeve and lowered her head in self-abasement. I am a hybrid of Naga and human. Very beautiful scales. Xiao Feng saw the scales on the maid's wrist and smiled. How can a lowly bloodline like mine be called beautiful? The maid's head lowered even more. Don't ask about the origin of a hero. You are not born in the hands of others, but the future is in your own hands. Why do you feel inferior? Xiao Feng gently comforted the maid. Over the years, Naga and human have fought and killed each other, and rape and pillage are not uncommon. So, whether it is human or Naga, this kind of hybrid tragedy happens from time to time. Thank you. The maid looked up at Xiao Feng and smiled. There seemed to be 3 strange spots flashing slightly in her green eyes. So this is the triple jade eyes? Not bad. Liu saw this scene through the system connection and quickly ordered the system. System, remote scan the triple flower eyes. Command accepted. The invisible wave used the supreme elixir spirit as a relay point and launched a remote scan, silently sweeping over the little maid. In an instant, the scan result of the triple flower eyes appeared in Liu's mind. This is the triple flower eyes? Shouldn't it be called Sharingan? Seeing the complete pattern of the triple flower eyes given by the system, Liu was obviously stunned. On the pattern in front of him, there were 3 mysterious dark green petal-shaped runes around the green eyes. This shape and structure was very similar to the Sharingan in a certain anime that Liu had seen in the past. 3 Tomo Sharingan. This is obviously a 3 Tomo Sharingan, right? Liu couldn't help but ridicule again. Supreme Elixir Spirit. Let Xiao Feng ask the maid for a drop of blood as a sample. I want to analyze the triple blue eyes flower pupils. After scanning the information of the triple flower eyes and adding a drop of blood as a sample with the system's ability, it was completely possible to create the triple flower eyes or analyze its abilities. With this, it would be much easier for Xiao Feng to deal with the 9 Abyss Python in the Beast region. It would be much more convenient for Liu to obtain the remains of the dragon and phoenix in the ancient ruins. What? You wanted to ask her for a drop of blood? At this moment, when Xiao Feng heard the Supreme Pill Spirit's request, the expression on his face was extremely strange. Teacher, this kind of request. How can I ask for it? It's not like I want her life. It's just a drop of blood. So what? That girl has a special constitution, and her ability will be very helpful to you in the future. This old man is trying to help you, so don't be ungrateful. It's fine if you don't want it. The Supreme Elixir Spirit snorted heavily. He seemed to be very angry. It was as if Xiao Feng was really a dog biting Lu Dongbin. All right, the Supreme Elixir Spirit had always been reliable. No matter what the Supreme Elixir Spirit wanted to do, in the end, Xiao Feng would benefit greatly. Xiao Feng had no choice but to comply with this request. Xiao Feng walked in front of the maid and rubbed his head in embarrassment. His expression was a bit awkward as he said to the maid, "Miss, could you give me a drop of blood?" Huh? The maid was stunned. She couldn't help but take 2 steps back. She looked at Xiao Feng with an extremely strange gaze. Miss, don't panic. I'm an apothecary. I want to see if I can find a solution to your bloodline problem. After all, people like you are innocent. Xiao Feng let out a long sigh. A compassionate expression appeared on his face. Not bad. Not bad. You're quite good at pretending. The Supreme Elixir Spirit laughed strangely, making the corner of Xiao Feng's mouth twitch a few times. He cursed in his heart. If it wasn't for your request, would I be able to deceive people like this? I'm also very guilty, okay? So, it's like this. When a maid heard Xiao Feng's words, she immediately admired Xiao Feng. She only felt that the image of Xiao Feng in front of her was so tall, and his character was so noble. Young Master Xiao Feng was really a good person. The little handmaiden took out a small knife and made a cut on her finger. Bright red blood with a hint of green color immediately flowed out of the cut. Thank you, miss. Xiao Feng hurriedly took out a pill bottle and caught the blood dripping from the maid's finger. Enough! Enough! After catching more than 10 drops of blood, Xiao Feng stopped. He reached out and took out a bit of blood-clotting powder and sprinkled it on the maid's wound. A moment later, the wound on the maid's hand healed. It's amazing. When a maid saw the healed wound on her hand, she admired Xiao Feng even more. After getting the blood and putting it into the ring, the Supreme Elixir Spirit immediately handed it over to Li Yu. System analyzed the triple flower eyes. With the blood sample and the scanned information of the triple flower eyes, Li Yu immediately let the system begin to analyze. Analysis completed. The system quickly completed the analysis work and submitted the result to Li Yu. A special physique caused by the mutation of the bloodline? This thing seems to be somewhat similar to the Kekiai Genkai of the Sharingan. Forget it, don't think too much. Li Yu smiled and shook his head, and then gave the system an order. System, can you directly give the triple flower eyes the ability to confuse the mind and control the snake-type magical beast without relying on the mutation of the bloodline? It can be done. There are 3 solutions. First, in the form of equipment, create a prop with the corresponding ability. Second, in the form of clan tattoo, create an inscription with the corresponding ability. Third, directly give the corresponding skill. Oh, there are 3 ways? Equipment, inscription, skill. Damn, system, are you sure this is not a game? The current plan is the best plan. The system obviously didn't understand Li Yu's ridicule. Its voice was as rigid as ever. Okay, first of all, the clan tattoo is excluded. Xiao Feng already has the Xiao clan tattoo, so there's no need to have another one. There is not much difference between equipment and skills. It's better to use skills. When used together with the Thunder Demon mantra, the power will be stronger. Thinking of this, Xiao Feng has already made a decision. System, connect to the Supreme Elixir Spirit and prepare to give Xiao Feng the ability of Triple Flower Eyes. In the mercenary group's encampment, Xiao Feng followed the little maid into the room. After the little maid left, the Supreme Elixir Spirit emerged from Xiao Feng's ring. Haha, boy, this time you have made a big bargain. As soon as the Supreme Elixir Spirit appeared, he laughed and said to Xiao Feng, Sensei, what ability does that girl have? You deliberately want me to ask her for a drop of blood? Xiao Feng smiled bitterly and shook his head. Now I have no choice but to lie. Of course it's a good thing. Triple Flower Eyes has the ability to confuse the mind and control snake-type magical beasts. It will be very helpful to you. The Supreme Elixir Spirit glanced at Xiao Feng with an expression that said it was for his own good. Thank you, Sensei. Xiao Feng was very touched by the Supreme Elixir Spirit's enthusiastic help. Okay, with the girl's blood sample, I have already extracted her ability. I will give you this ability now. With that, the Supreme Elixir Spirit waved at Xiao Feng, and 2 dark green lights flashed and merged into Xiao Feng's eyes. Hiss, Xiao Feng sucked in a breath of cold air in pain, and only opened his eyes after a long while. Around Xiao Feng's pitch-black eyes, 3 dark gold runes flashed before disappearing. Chapter 108. This is the story of a bonfire. Unknowingly, the number of words written has already reached 1 million. My fingers danced, and the kacha sound of the keyboard was like a melodious piano piece, playing a movement that belonged to me. My blood was burning, and my passion was soaring. It was as if I was strolling in a snowy field. When I suddenly looked back, there was a string of clear footprints behind me. From confirming the title of the book, uploading the first chapter, the first click, the first recommendation, the first collection, the first gift, the past was vivid in my mind. When I look back, I actually felt a little emotional. This book was my heart's blood. It was like a bonfire on a cold, snowy night, warming my heart and illuminating my path forward. If this book was a bonfire, then my editor, Boss Cheelin, was the person who gave you the spark. The story of the horse and Bo Lu was well known. Without the appreciation of Bo Lu, even if one had the ability to travel 1,000 miles in a day and 800 miles in a night, one could only be trapped in a carriage or curled up in a stable. There was no opportunity to gallop on the battlefield and roam the world. However, my editor, Cheelin, was not only a Bo Lu, but also a teacher. I'm an old failure. If you click on my author name, you will see a long list of failed books. The concept, setting, opening, and layout of the book were all built under the guidance of the editor, Big Brother Cheelin. During this process, every guidance was like pushing away the clouds and illuminating the blue sky, allowing me to understand the key points of web writing. This was the spark. The spark was not a lit match, nor was it a bright candle, nor was it a burning torch. It was the technique of drilling wood to make fire, the technique of flint to make fire. It was lifted from the masses and simplified from the trivial. Editor Cheelin had recognized my talent and taught me the virtue of being a teacher. I could only be grateful to him. If Editor Cheelin gave me the spark, then the readers gave me firewood. Every comment, every click, every bookmark, every recommendation, every monthly ticket, every gift, they added a handful of firewood to this bonfire, making this bonfire burn brighter and brighter. The flames were churning and burning fiercely. The blood in my heart was also burning fiercely. Both of his hands pressed on the keyboard, and the sound of the keyboard rang out again. The impassioned rhythm and jumping notes were like a galloping horse in the wilderness, like the surging waves of the sea. He looked up at the sky. The divine kingdom of the gods hung high in the sky, and the platinum throne was at the peak. Brilliant divine light illuminated the world. I turned my head to look at the bonfire beside me. I took a deep breath and clenched my fists. Many hands gather firewood, and the flames burn high. One day, this bonfire would be able to set the plains ablaze, engulf the earth, and illuminate the sky. This is my dream. I dream that one day I will be able to ignite my divine flame, condense my godhood, establish my divine kingdom, and hold my throne high above. Divine radiance spread throughout the 3,000 realms and intimidated the heavens for 10,000 years, brighter than the starry sky, brighter than the sun and moon. Ladies and gentlemen, please lend me a hand. Every handful of firewood can make this bonfire burn brighter, more fiercely, and more passionately. When this bonfire engulfs the world, I will be crowned king. Chapter 110. In front of him was a boundless desert of yellow sand. Waves of heat waves rose, an extremely active earth and fire elemental yuan qi surged between heaven and earth like waves of waves. Xiao Feng took a deep breath and felt that the dou qi in his body, which was as heavy as a mountain, seemed to have become a little more active. The golden flames in his eyes flickered, as if they had been triggered by the fire energy between heaven and earth. This Taggart Desert is indeed a good place to cultivate. Xiao Feng stepped into the yellow sand, and his heavy footsteps seemed to cause the sand dunes under his feet to tremble. Of course, the Grand Elixir Spirit's voice was as proud as ever. How could the place I have designated for you be wrong? Yes, Master is omniscient and omnipotent. Xiao Feng had long been familiar with the Grand Elixir Spirit's personality. Even a calm and serious person like him had to go along with the Grand Elixir Spirit's personality and flatter him. A year had passed. After obtaining the triple blue-eyed flower eyes, Xiao Feng continued to improve his strength under the guidance of the Grand Elixir Spirit. After fusing with the Battle Emperor bloodline, Xiao Feng began to fight monsters and level up again. He continued to fight in the magical Beast Mountain range, absorbing Xiao Xian's lifetime of cultivation and integrating Xiao Xian's combat experience and cultivation comprehension. With the energy supply of Xiao Xian's peak battle sage, Xiao Feng boldly opened the great illusionary realm and continued to hone his combat skills and alchemy skills in the illusionary realm. At this moment, Xiaofeng's strength had already advanced to the 5-star Battle King realm, and his alchemist level had also increased to the 5th grade. In just a year, he had advanced from the Battle Master realm to the Battle King realm, which was an increase of 3 major realms. The speed of his advancement was frightening. This was because Li Yu felt that Xiaofeng was too weak and could not complete the plundering mission well. So he instructed the Grand Elixir Spirit to use Xiao Xian's lifetime of cultivation to continuously improve Xiaofeng's cultivation. Xiao Xian's lifetime of cultivation was continuously broken down and refined by the Grand Elixir Spirit. The pure energy was like a blessing that continuously merged into Xiaofeng's body. If not for the fact that he was worried that Xiaofeng would explode, Xiaofeng's strength would have increased even faster. As he was treated as a test subject by Li Yu, Xiaofeng used the Buddhist Guardian Vajra technique as his main cultivation method. He cultivated the earth attribute Herculean mountain moving scripture, which made his body as tough as Vajra and had immense strength. The mountain-moving force and immovable mountain brought by the Herculean man's mountain-moving scripture had already achieved initial success. He had also grasped the basics of Vajra blessing spell, thunderous demon-subduing mantra, and dragon elephant Vajra divine strength. In fact, the Do-Chi in Xiaofeng's body could no longer be called Do-Chi, but Vajra magic power. Perhaps it was related to the laws of heaven and earth in this world, but Xiaofeng's Vajra mana still had the characteristics of this world's Do-Chi. In this way, Xiaofeng's strength was already very terrifying if he included the 3 divine abilities of the Vajra scepter. Teacher, is the green lotus earth fire you mentioned below? Xiaofeng stood beside a sand dune, looked at the concave ground in front of him, and asked the Supreme Elixir Spirit. This is the entrance. You can find the green lotus earth fire from here. The Supreme Elixir Spirit used the system's scanning function and casually scanned, and found the location of the green lotus earth fire. Because Li Yu was also a little curious about this world's heavenly fire, and Xiaofeng's current strength could also be taken out, Li Yu asked the Supreme Elixir Spirit to trick Xiaofeng into coming to look for the green lotus earth fire in the underground near Rock Desert City. Green lotus earth fire? Xiaofeng smiled and replied, I wonder how it compares to my true sun fire. The green lotus earth fire is definitely not comparable to the true sun fire. The Supreme Elixir Spirit laughed. The green lotus earth fire is ranked 19th on the heavenly fire list, and is even inferior to Shao Sun Air's Gold Emperor Burning Heaven Flame. The true sun fire is at least equivalent to the number 1 Emperor Flame. It's actually so strong. Hearing the Supreme Elixir Spirit's words, Xiaofeng couldn't help but be speechless. With your current strength, you can't unleash the full power of the true sunfire. Wait until you're stronger, then you'll naturally know how strong the true sunfire is. The Supreme Elixir Spirit's voice revealed a sense of pride. Teacher's things are of course the strongest. Xiaofeng smiled and flattered, and lowered his head to look at the pit in front of him. Although the green lotus earth fire is useless to me, now is the time when I need to increase my family's strength. If this green lotus earth fire is given to Xiao Yan's cousin, another expert will appear in the family very quickly. The danger brought by the ancient Emperor's Jade was like a sharp edge on his back, and Xiaofeng didn't dare to relax at all. He could only think of ways to increase his family's strength as soon as possible. He waved his hand at the sand dune, and the accumulated yellow sand was blown away by a huge force, revealing a pitch-black tunnel. A trace of golden light flashed in his eyes, and Xiaofeng stepped into the tunnel below. Along the way, with the Supreme Elixir Spirit guiding the way, Xiaofeng didn't delay at all. After a while, Xiaofeng came to the side of a scorching lava lake. The churning lava soared up a wave of heat, and even with Xiaofeng's current cultivation, he felt his body heat up, and beads of sweat appeared on his body. Boom! The golden yellow true sun fire suddenly exploded, turning into a huge golden fire lotus that enveloped Xiaofeng's entire body, completely isolating him from the surrounding heat waves. After isolating himself from the heat wave, Xiao Feng walked towards the lava lake. Wait, there's something in the lava. Xiao Feng was about to step into the lava lake when he suddenly heard the supreme elixir spirit's reminder, causing him to be slightly stunned. There's actually something alive in the lava. I'm afraid it's some fire-type demonic beast. Xiao Feng didn't dare to be careless. He waved his hand and took out the Vajra demon subduing pestle, his heart already on alert. Boom! The lava boiled fiercely, and a huge, double-headed snake-like monster rushed out of the lava. The double-headed snake's 4 blazing eyes stared at Xiao Feng. Its ferocious mouth suddenly opened wide, and 2 pillars of fire shot out like a volcanic eruption. Just a mere battle spirit, and you dare to be presumptuous in front of me? Xiao Feng snorted, and the golden fire lotus on the surface of his body suddenly expanded, and the monstrous golden flame surged like a raging tide. Boom! The golden flame waves directly submerged the 2 pillars of fire shot out by the double-headed snake. In front of the true sunfire, the flames shot out by the battle spirit realm double-headed flame spirit snake were completely insignificant. The double-headed snake was frightened by the monstrous power of the golden flame, and the flames in its 4 eyes suddenly shrank. The snake shook its body, and it turned around to escape. Trying to escape? Xiao Feng shouted. Under the eruption of his battle chi, his body flashed with golden light, and a golden armor appeared on the surface of Xiao Feng's body. Vajra demon subduing pestle. With the vast strength in his body, Xiao Feng raised the Vajra demon subduing pestle in his hand and smashed it down at the double-headed snake. The mountain-like strength ruthlessly smashed at the bifurcated neck of the double-headed snake. Bang! With a loud explosion, the red-hot magma-like snake blood burst out, and the neck of the double-headed snake was directly smashed by Xiao Feng. With a habitual wave of his hand, Xiao Feng kept the corpse of the double-headed snake into his ring. In fact, this was just the system's recovery function. Kid, if you want to find the green lotus earth fire, you'd better hurry, because someone is coming. Isn't it a human? Chapter 111. Swoosh. Swoosh. The speed of the person was extremely fast. The sound of something breaking through the air could be heard as a figure rushed over with the whistling of the wind. Not long after, a figure appeared in front of Xiao Feng. She was a peerlessly beautiful woman. Her figure was tall and graceful with a slim waist. She wore colorful clothes, and her peerlessly beautiful face carried a noble and dignified aura of someone who had lived above others for a long time. Kid, this is the overlord of the Tranquil Desert, Queen Medusa of the Snake People tribe. She has the strength of a peak dohuang. You must be careful. The supreme pill spirit's warning rang in Xiao Feng's mind as soon as the beautiful woman appeared. Human, you dare to have designs on the green lotus hellfire? You're courting death. Queen Medusa glanced at Xiao Feng and raised her eyebrows. Her eyes were wide open as she extended her slender finger and pointed at Xiao Feng. Swoosh! A dazzling purple light rushed out from the tip of his finger and transformed into a huge snake shadow. It shot towards Xiao Feng at high speed. Do Huang. Xiao Feng was already prepared after receiving the supreme pill spirit's warning. Seeing Queen Medusa's attack, Xiao Feng let out a loud roar and a brilliant golden light bloomed. Vajra's glare, demons avoided. A Sanskrit sound rang out as the Vajra blessing spell covered his body. A golden armor appeared on the surface of his body with a brilliant golden light. Xiao Feng's body was shining with golden light as if he was a god in golden armor. Moving mountain seal. Xiao Feng held the Vajra scepter in his left hand and let out a loud roar. He held the moving mountain seal with his right hand and blasted it out. It was as if a huge mountain had been pushed out by this handprint, and the tremendous force caused the entire underground cave to shake violently. Boom! Medusa's purple snake shadow and Xiao Feng's moving mountain seal collided with each other with a loud bang. A huge shockwave spread out and swept across the entire underground cave. Countless stone pillars exploded with a loud bang. Dust and gravel flew in all directions. Under this attack, the two of them were actually evenly matched. They were equally matched. Huh, awesome. Xiao Feng let out a hearty laugh as the fighting spirit in his heart surged to his chest. Xiao Feng's powerful body, Do Qi cultivation of the Do Wang realm, and the support of the Vajra blessing curse made Xiao Feng's fighting strength no weaker than Medusa, who was at the peak of the Do Huang realm. Take one of my moves, too. Xiao Feng swung his left hand and took the Vajra exorcism pestle from his left hand with his right hand. He spun his body and swung the Vajra exorcism pestle in a circle. A dazzling golden light burst out and swept toward Medusa. Vajra wield staff, sweep away the demons. An awe-inspiring divine power erupted from the Vajra pestle, and a thin yet vast power swept across the land. Invincible. It was unstoppable. He's actually the strong? Queen Medusa frowned and clasped her hands together. A dazzling purple light shot out from the top of her head, turning into a giant snake that reached the heavens and the earth. Roar! The giant purple snake let out an earth-shattering roar. The snake's shadow spiraled down, forming a huge coiling snake array around Medusa's body. Bang! A muffled, loud sound rang out. The Vajra demon subduing pestle, which emitted a dazzling golden light, heavily smashed onto the spiraling purple snake's shadow. Hiss hiss! The spiraling purple snake's shadow emitted a huge hiss. It seemed that this snake's shadow had been hurt by Xiao Feng's attack and was howling in pain. A trace of pain seemed to have flashed across Queen Medusa's exceptional face. Her pair of purple-black eyes became bone-chilling. Sky snake dance. Medusa let out a delicate cry. Her purple hair moved without any wind. Each strand of hair was like an extremely tiny snake, crazily twisting and dancing behind her head. A wave of ice-cold and enormous energy erupted from Medusa's body. Her hair fluttered, appearing like tens of thousands of small snakes as they flew toward Xiao Feng in a continuous and densely packed manner. This kind of attack was like a rain of arrows. Regardless of whether one dodged or parried, it was impossible to completely block it. Once one was hit by these strands of hair, not to mention the lethality of the Do Qi, just the snake venom alone was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. However, Xiao Feng was not afraid at all. Sun Fire Lotus. The brilliant sun shone over the world. The brilliant golden light illuminated the entire underground space. A monstrous fire surged. Medusa's flying strands of hair collided with the raging flames. Immediately, waves of miserable cries rang out. It was as if countless small snakes were being burned by the raging flames, causing them to scream incessantly. Damn it! Medusa's face turned pale. She hurriedly retracted her flying strands of hair. When she retracted her hair, her long hair, which was like a waterfall, was scattered and dragged to the ground. However, the tip of this cloud-like hair, which was about a foot long, was already burnt yellow. Oomph. Medusa shook her head slightly. Her burnt yellow hair immediately fell off. Human, since you already have the heavenly flame, why do you still want the green lotus earth fire? Are all humans so greedy? Seeing that Xiao Feng was not to be trifled with and that fighting would not solve the problem, Medusa could only negotiate. In a world where strength was respected, the first thing one would think of to solve a problem was strength. Only when strength could not solve a problem would one use words to negotiate. What does it have to do with you, what I want the green lotus earth fire for? Xiao Feng snorted coldly and stopped. When he was fighting with Medusa, who was at the peak of the Do Huang level, Xiao Feng did not seem to be at a disadvantage and could even be said to have gained a small advantage. However, his Do Qi was greatly depleted. If he continued to fight, he would not be able to hold on for long. The green lotus earth fire is very important to me. I will definitely not give up. If you can't back down, then. Medusa's ice-cold eyes gradually revealed the characteristics of a snake's eyes. If you can't back down, then I can only fight to the death. Haha, do you think I'm afraid of you? Xiao Feng smiled indifferently. He raised his dochi and was about to attack when the Supreme Elixir Spirit's voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Xiaofeng, brat, don't attack first. Tell her that she can evolve without using the Green Lotus Earth Fire. You can help her. Evolve? Medusa wants the Green Lotus Earth Fire for evolution. Hearing the Supreme Elixir Spirit's words, Xiaofeng nodded. He raised his head and looked at Medusa. Xiaofeng continued. Aren't you so nervous about the Green Lotus Earth Fire for evolution? If you want to evolve, why do you need the Green Lotus Earth Fire? I can help you. Originally, when she heard Xiaofeng say the word evolve, Medusa was already prepared to fight with her life on the line. She did not expect that Xiaofeng would actually say, I can help you. This caused Medusa to be stunned. Humans are all incomparably treacherous. Are you so kind? Medusa laughed coldly. She did not believe Xiaofeng's words. Did you see the flame that I released just now? Xiaofeng followed the Supreme Elixir Spirit's instructions. As he spoke, he stretched out his finger. A golden flame flickered on his fingertip. Feel it carefully. Feel the difference of my flame. The brilliance of the brilliant sun shone. In addition to the grand aura, there was also a vast aura that illuminated the earth and bred all living things. There's actually such a flame? Medusa was very shocked by Xiaofeng's golden flame. If she had the help of this flame, her chances of evolving would be greatly increased. However, how could she make this person sincerely help her? Chapter 112. Human. Medusa raised her head and looked at Xiaofeng. The aura on her body slowly retracted. I can stop fighting with you for the Green Lotus Hellfire. However, you can't make me trust you. If she used Xiaofeng's flame to evolve, her life and death would be completely in Xiaofeng's hands. If he harbored any evil intentions, Medusa would probably die without leaving a trace. Queen Medusa had controlled the Snake Men tribe for many years. As a superior, how could she not have this bit of knowledge? How could she easily put her life and death in the hands of others? What suggestion does the queen have? Since Medusa had brought up this problem, she naturally had a way to solve it. Xiaofeng directly asked Medusa. It's very simple. Medusa reached out and pulled out a strand of hair, holding in her hand. This strand of hair contains my snake venom. Tie this strand of hair around your wrist. At this point, Medusa paused and raised her head to look at Xiaofeng, a smile appearing on her face. If you didn't play any tricks during my evolution, this strand of hair wouldn't have touched you. If you dare to play any tricks, the snake venom will enter your body, and your entire body will immediately turn into a pool of pus and blood. Xiaofeng looked at the strand of hair in Medusa's hand and was speechless for a long time. Teacher, do you really want me to accept this thing? If I put such a dangerous thing on my body, what if Medusa kills me? Wouldn't I die in vain? Just a moment ago, Xiaofeng suddenly heard the Supreme Elixir Spirit asking him to accept Medusa's conditions. This made Xiaofeng feel that it was inconceivable. If not for the confidence that the Supreme Elixir Spirit had always brought to Xiaofeng, Xiaofeng would probably even have the thought of cursing his mother at this moment. Actually, the Supreme Elixir Spirit's actions were completely because of Liu, the mastermind behind the scenes. Seeing Medusa appear, Liu thought of the seven-colored heaven-devouring python that Medusa had evolved into. Liu's interest was piqued. He wanted to see how Medusa evolved. Then, Xiaofeng could only bitterly endure. TSK, how come your snake venom stumped this old man? You could take whatever you want. Let's see if she can touch you. Hearing Xiaofeng's question, the Supreme Elixir Spirit sneered in disdain. In fact, that was indeed the case. If Medusa really wanted to poison him, the Supreme Pill Spirit would directly use the system's recovery function to recycle and decompose the poison. It would not affect Xiaofeng at all. All right. The Supreme Alchemy Spirit's usual disdainful tone made Xiaofeng more confident. All right, since the teacher had already guaranteed that there would be no problem, then there would naturally be no problem. I accept your conditions. Xiaofeng helplessly listened to the Supreme Elixir Spirit's command. All right. A strange light flashed in Medusa's eyes. She walked up to Xiaofeng and wrapped her hair around Xiaofeng's wrist. Done. Medusa released her hand and looked up at Xiaofeng. Even with Medusa's cold arrogance and profoundness, she admired Xiaofeng's straightforward and forthright manner. This person is unexpectedly a good person. Medusa secretly nodded in her heart and silently remembered this favor. If she could successfully evolve this time, she would have a chance to repay him in the future. Next, please release your deviant flame. I want to borrow your deviant flame to purify my bloodline. Medusa nodded at Xiaofeng and then began to take off her clothes. Hey, still like this? Xiaofeng's eyeballs were about to pop out. You wish. Medusa rolled her eyes. Purple light erupted from her body. Her entire body was enveloped in a dense purple brilliance. Only the clothes that flew out seemed to reveal a trace of curvature in the purple light. Release your deviant flame. Medusa's voice came from within the purple light. It seemed to have a trace of urgency. All right. Xiaofeng focused his mind and waved his hand to release the true sun fire. The surging flames turned into a sea of fire. Roar! Suddenly, a loud roar resounded from within the purple light. A gigantic purple snake, over 100 feet long, darted out from the purple light. It raised its head and roared towards the sky. Then, it rushed into the sea of fire formed by the grand sun flame, released by Xiaofeng. Roar! 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 In the surging sea of fire, the huge purple snake wriggled in the flames. It was like a flood dragon's brain. It could be described in another way. Like a loach thrown into boiling water, the huge purple snake wriggled, struggled, and roared crazily in the sea of fire. Wisps of black smoke rose from the huge purple snake's body. It was as if many things on its body were burned into black smoke and dissipated in the world. Waves of intense and painful roars came out. The huge purple snake kept shrinking. Its body kept shrinking. It seemed as if countless pieces of flesh and bones were burned into black smoke. This is evolution? Xiaofeng looked at the struggling purple snake in the sea of fire. The corner of his mouth twitched. When he first obtained the true sun fire, Xiaofeng felt as if his entire body was about to ignite and burn to ashes. Even now, he still had lingering fears. Thinking of that miserable state and comparing it to the current state of the huge purple snake, Xiaofeng secretly rejoiced. The current situation was that even a peak Do Huang would be burned to death by the true sunfire. At that time, he was only a doja. If not for his teacher's help, he would have been burned to ashes before he could fuse with the true sunfire. In fact, Xiaofeng was wrong. Although Liu only gave Xiaofeng a trace of the true sunfire, its power could not be underestimated. If not for the system fusing with the true sunfire, Xiaofeng would have been burned to ashes even if he got close. As for now, this is Medusa's evolution. Is it not snake meat barbecued? Liu's eyes twitched when he saw this. The power of the true sunfire was terrifying. Although Xiaofeng's true sunfire was only a trace of the true sunfire that Liu pulled out from the immortal abode in Merchant City, its power was not inferior to the heavenly flames of this world. System, according to the collected information, analyzed the possibility of Medusa's evolution. Analysis complete. According to the collected data, the probability of Medusa evolving into a rainbow heaven-devouring python is 10%. 10% chance. The chances of a successful evolution are not high. Liu nodded and then asked, System, have you analyzed the principle of Medusa's evolution? According to the current information, Medusa's evolution is because she has a trace of the rainbow heaven-devouring python's bloodline. Through the flame, the impurities are removed and her bloodline is purified. So it's like that. Liu looked at the huge snake struggling in the flames and shook his head slightly. Poor fellow. Forget it. I'll give you some benefits. Liu took out a bit of the holy spring water from the resource warehouse and let the system connect through a remote connection to directly melt this bit of holy spring water into Medusa's body. The holy spring water contained life and death, flesh and bones, and a huge amount of vitality. Medusa's eyes suddenly bloomed with brilliant light. Roar! A loud roar sounded, and Medusa's body bloomed with colorful light. The charred body of the snake exploded, and a colorful stream of light rushed out of the flames. Chapter 113. Is the evolution complete? When Xiao Feng saw the rainbow light shoot up, he hurriedly retracted the grand sun primordial flame. The flame dissipated, and the seven-colored light was wriggling in the air. Colorful clouds of mist floated in the air, gathering and dispersing randomly. As the haze rolled, a 3-foot-long rainbow snake crawled out of the haze. Its body was slender and smooth, and its smooth and dense scales were overflowing with colors. On its slightly raised head, a rainbow halo was faintly discernible, revealing a noble and gorgeous expression. The seven-colored snake swooped down and landed on the ground. The seven-colored haze once again surged and turned into a dense seven-colored fog. There was the sound of clothes being put on. After a while, the haze dissipated, revealing a mature woman turned into a beautiful girl. When Liu saw this, his eyes widened. She became smaller after evolving? Forget it, I don't care. System, record the information of Medusa's evolution and the rainbow heaven devouring Python's bloodline. After Liu glanced at it, he lost interest. He closed the system and ignored it. But Xiao Feng couldn't ignore it. When he saw the beautiful girl walking out of the rainbow haze, saw the purplish-black hair that flickered with rainbow halos, looked at the rainbow haze in her eyes, and looked at the delicate face, Xiao Feng was greatly shocked. Have you evolved successfully? Xiao Feng took a deep breath, collected his thoughts, and asked the beautiful girl in front of him. Yes, the evolution is successful. Medusa nodded and walked in front of Xiao Feng. With a gentle wave of her hand, the hair around Xiao Feng's wrist turned into ashes and fell off. Actually, Medusa raised her head and looked at Xiao Feng. A bright smile appeared on her face. Actually, that strand of hair is not poisonous. Yes. Also, thank you. If not for your help, I wouldn't have been able to evolve successfully. Hee. It's nothing. It's good that I was able to help you. Xiao Feng smiled and waved his hand dismissively. Xiao Feng thought that Medusa's gratitude was because of the grand sun primordial flame. However, Medusa thanked him for the life force that was poured into her body at the crucial moment. He really wants to help me? Although Queen Medusa was cold and arrogant, she was still a woman. Any woman, no matter how strong or powerful she was, would always hope that there would be someone who truly cared about her and would sincerely help her. However, she had clearly misunderstood. The green lotus hellfire is below. Medusa pointed at the magma lake before turning her head and smiling sweetly at Xiao Feng. Let me show you the way. As she spoke, Medusa waved her hand, and a seven-colored mist spread out, transforming into a light screen that enveloped her entire body. Medusa walked to the edge of the magma lake and turned around to glance at Xiao Feng. Let's go. I'm coming. They're here. Xiao Feng was obviously not used to the changes in Medusa. Initially, she was yelling about killing him, but now she was so enthusiastic. This surprised him. Walking towards the magma lake, the grand sun primordial flame transformed into a fire lotus that enveloped his entire body. Xiao Feng followed behind Medusa and entered the magma lake. As they walked along the magma lake, the surrounding temperature got higher and higher. Gradually, even the magma showed a green color. The color of the magma became greener and greener. In the end, the verdant magma was like a jade-green lake. In this jade-green magma lake, a huge green lotus blossomed with green light as it stood upright in the magma lake. The green lotus had 8 lotus petals that were crystal clear as if they were carved out of jade. In the center of the green lotus, there was a 3-foot lotus platform. There were some protruding holes on the lotus platform, and within the holes, there were spots of fluorescent light. They were plump and crisp lotus seeds. In the middle of the lotus platform, there was a fist-sized hole. Within it, a cluster of jade-green flames burned brightly. Boundless clear light shone, illuminating the surroundings in a jade-green color. Is this the green lotus hellfire? Seeing the green flames shining on the lotus platform, Xiao Feng smiled and nodded. It is indeed extraordinary. As he approached the green lotus, Medusa suddenly blocked in front of him. What do you mean? Xiao Feng was shocked. He thought that Medusa had changed her mind and wanted to snatch the green lotus hellfire. However, he realized that Medusa was pointing below the green lotus, as if reminding him of something. Xiao Feng looked in the direction that Medusa was pointing and realized that there were countless slender roots extending from below the lotus platform. The roots were about 3 feet long and densely packed with small tentacles. These roots swayed slightly and crazily absorbed the violent fire attribute energy in the surrounding magma. So you are reminding me. Xiao Feng smiled and nodded at Medusa. However, with the grand sun primordial flame in hand, how could he be afraid of these green lotus roots? Xiao Feng was about to step closer to this green lotus when he suddenly heard the supreme elixir spirit's voice. Kid, just store that green lotus directly into your ring. The supreme elixir spirit prompted in Xiao Feng's mind. Store into the ring? Teacher, won't this burn all the other things in the ring? Such a ferocious flame. Xiao Feng really did not dare to casually store it into the ring. Do you think that my ring is an ordinary storage ring or something like that? You can rest assured. All right then. Xiao Feng followed the supreme elixir spirit's instructions and waved his hand at the green lotus in front. An invisible undulation swept past. The green lotus instantly disappeared. When Medusa saw Xiao Feng's action, she was shocked until her eyes went wide. Deviant flames can also be stored into the storage ring? Even the storage ring is going to explode, right? Glancing at the bronze ring in Xiao Feng's hand and not discovering anything unusual, Medusa suppressed the doubts in her heart and waved at Xiao Feng. Then, she rushed out of the lava lake. After a moment, the two people passed through the lava lake and advanced along the underground tunnel, returning to the surface once again. Wuyuan City. Liu looked at the green lotus earth fire handed over by the supreme elixir spirit. A trace of a smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. System scanned the green lotus earth fire. Analyzed the green lotus earth fire. The green lotus earth fire was of no use to Liu, but he was still somewhat interested in what was going on with this so-called deviant flame. Scan complete. Analysis complete. After the system's old-fashioned and cold voice sounded out, it directly transmitted the analysis result to Liu's mind. Lava earth fire was absorbed by the green lotus. The earth fire and the green lotus would attribute energy fused and mutated into a flame. So that's how it is. Liu chuckled, expressing that he could have as many of these things as he wanted. Go and do wholesale next time. Among the 9 layers of flames in the store space, the first layer was lava earth fire. The 7th layer, 5 elements true fire, had 5 elements with fire. As long as the 2 were fused, it would be green lotus earth fire. This green lotus that grew in lava earth fire is rather extraordinary. Liu's interest in the green lotus itself was greater than the deviant flame. This kind of peculiar plant was very suitable to be planted in the Immortal Estates garden. System, leave that green lotus behind. Give the other things to the supreme elixir spirit. Chapter 114. Xiao Family Courtyard. Yao Lao, is this the mysterious flame you were talking about? Xiao Yin looked at the white flame in Yao Lao's hand and felt the vast power within the flame. Xiao Yin was shocked. Yes, this is the mysterious flame. Yao Lao proudly raised his head. Seeing Xiao Yan's expression, Yao Lao felt very comfortable. Ever since he woke up, every time Yao Lao talked to Xiao Yan, he would always be shocked. He taught him the profound level Do skill level 8 collapse, but his brother had already taught him. He taught him how to refine foundation elixir, and his brother had already taught him. He had actually taught him how to differentiate medicinal herbs, how to collect medicinal herbs, and how to store medicinal herbs. Yao Lao had seen that so-called brother before. He was only a level 2 alchemist. However, Yao Lao found himself in the hands of a mere level 2 alchemist. At this moment, after releasing the mysterious flame, Yao Lao finally regained his confidence. This is the mysterious flame. Yao Lao chuckled, showing off to Xiao Yin as he said, as a pharmacist, a mystical flame is a treasure that I yearn for even in my dreams. However, the mysterious flame is extremely rare. Alchemists who can obtain it are all top alchemists. At this point, Yao Lao turned his head and looked at Xiao Yin. Little kid, it is very difficult to obtain the mysterious flame. It is something that can only be encountered and not sought. Cousin, Xiao Yin cousin. At this moment, there was a call from outside the door. Brother Feng, you're back. Hearing the familiar voice outside the door, Xiao Yin jumped up in surprise. Oomph. Hearing that Xiao Feng had returned, Yao Lao felt a burst of anger in his heart. He coldly snorted and turned into a ray of light, returning to the ring on Xiao Yan's hand. Brother Feng. Xiao Yin reached out to open the door and welcomed Xiao Feng into the room. Cousin, brother brought back some good things for you. As soon as he entered the door, Xiao Feng eagerly said to Xiao Yin, Cousin, your cultivation is already at the Doja realm, right? You're about to become an alchemist, right? This gift is just right for you. What gift? Xiao Yin was overjoyed when he heard Xiao Feng's words. TSK, what kind of gift could he give? At most, it was just some ordinary medicinal herbs. Don't tell me he can still take out a strange flame? Yao Lao grumbled in Xiao Yin's mind. Cousin, I found a deviant flame for you. After you become an alchemist, this deviant flame will be of great help to you. As Xiao Feng spoke, he touched his ring and a palm-sized bronze box appeared in his hand. Strange flame. Xiao Yin's eyebrows jumped. He had just spoken to Yao Lao about the deviant flame, and now a deviant flame had come knocking on his door? This was too much of a coincidence. Ha ha! Heavenly flame? A strange flame in a box. In Xiao Yan's mind, Yao Lao's mocking laughter rang out. If this cousin of yours isn't lying to you, then he must have been deceived. How powerful was the heavenly flame? How can it be stored in a copper box? Under normal circumstances, Yao Lao's judgment was correct. However, with the interference of this abnormal guy, Li Yu, this world had long been abnormal. Li Yu kept the green lotus and realized that Xiao Feng didn't have anything that could store the strange flame. Li Yu could only use the broken bronze from the Buddhist artifact to make a box that could store the strange flame. This time, Li Yu was careful and limited it to only being able to store the strange flame. There were no other functions. However, this was already very terrifying. This is the green lotus hellfire. Xiao Feng stretched out his hand and opened the bronze box. A green flame surged out, and the temperature of the room instantly became incomparably hot. As the monstrous heat wave approached, Xiao Yin retreated a few steps before he could catch his breath. Sorry. Xiao Feng hurriedly closed the box, covering the monstrous heat wave. Xiao Feng smiled apologetically at Xiao Yin. Hee, your current cultivation is still unable to withstand the heat of the strange flame. Don't worry, when your cultivation is higher, you will be able to fuse with this strange flame. As he spoke, Xiao Feng handed the bronze box to Xiao Yin. Thank you, Brother Feng. Xiao Yin was extremely grateful. This cousin of his was really too good to him. Even something like the strange flame could be casually given away. Xiao Yin was already sure that the box in his hand contained the strange flame, because the voice in his mind kept shouting in a daze, "This is impossible. It's really the green lotus hellfire? It's really the strange flame? How is this possible?" In fact, although the green lotus hellfire was a good thing, it was useless to Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng, who was tricked by Li Yu into walking the path of the guardian Vajra, did not cultivate the flame incantation, which could absorb the strange flame. In addition, he already had the stronger true sun flame, so the green lotus hellfire was useless to him. After Li Yu analyzed the green lotus hellfire, he also lost interest in it. So, this kind of exceptionally precious treasure had become something that no one was interested in. After knowing that the matter of the ancient emperor's jade would bring danger to the family, Xiao Feng was thinking of ways to increase the family strength. This green lotus hellfire was naturally given to Xiao Yin, who was suitable to use the strange flame. What are you thanking me for? We are all brothers. Xiao Feng laughed heartily and patted Xiao Yin's shoulder. His face suddenly became serious. Cousin, I still have something to give you. This is related to the origin of our Xiao family. You must not tell anyone. And, seeing Xiao Feng's serious expression, Xiaoyan also nodded solemnly. Our Xiao family is one of the 8 ancient clans. We once had the Battle Emperor's bloodline. 8 ancient clans? Battle Emperor's bloodline? Before Xiao Feng could finish his words, the voice in Xiao Yan's mind suddenly let out a horrified cry. Hearing this cry, Xiao Yan's expression became even more serious. Although the ring grandpa felt a little outdated, his knowledge was extraordinary. To be able to scare him to this extent, this 8 ancient clans and the Battle Emperor's bloodline must be extraordinary. Cousin, I was fortunate enough to obtain the ancestors' inheritance during this trip. I will now pass the ancestors' inheritance and the Battle Emperor's bloodline to you. Xiao Feng followed the instructions of the Supreme Pill Spirit and pointed a finger at Xiao Yan's forehead, transmitting the Skyfire 3 mysterious change into Xiao Yan's mind. After a long while, Xiao Yan shook his head and regained consciousness. Seeing the mysterious technique in his mind, Xiao Yan was surprised and happy. Get ready. I will now pass the Battle Emperor's bloodline to you. The Battle Emperor's bloodline was the same as the Green Lotus Hellfire. After being analyzed by Li Yu, he found that it was far inferior to his innate holy body Dao embryo, so he lost interest. Xiao Xian's blood pool in the heavenly tomb was filled with the Battle Emperor's bloodline. After Xiao Feng obtained the Battle Emperor's bloodline, there was still some bloodline power left in the blood pool. In order to strengthen the family and deal with possible crises, Xiao Feng also passed the Battle Emperor's bloodline to his cousin, who was on good terms with him and had extraordinary talent. Xiao Feng followed the instructions of the Supreme Pill Spirit and waved at Xiao Yan. A thick blood mist enveloped Xiao Yan. The vast bloodline power instantly rushed into Xiao Yan's body. The intense pain made Xiao Yan let out a tragic cry. Fortunately, the Supreme Pill Spirit was prepared. As soon as the sound rushed out, it was blocked by a light screen. Not long after, the blood mist dissipated. Xiao Yan's body bloomed with a brilliant brilliance, standing upright in the room with his head held high. Is this the Battle Emperor's bloodline? Feeling the vast and majestic bloodline power in his body, Xiao Yan beamed with joy. Yao Lao, how's the gift my cousin brought back? Xiao Yan teased Yao Lao in his heart. Yao Lao was speechless. He could only roar in his heart. Get lost. I don't want to talk to you rich people. Chapter 115. The next morning, Xiao Feng set off again. In order to increase the strength of his family, Xiao Feng thought of many ways. He even gave out the heavenly flame and the Battle Emperor bloodline. But this was not enough. It was very difficult to increase his strength in a short period of time. Then, it was necessary to find an ally. Under the reminder of the Supreme Pill Spirit, Xiao Feng thought of Medusa. After leaving the city, Xiao Feng spread out his battle chi light wings and flew towards the direction of the Naga tribe in the Tranquil Desert. After being promoted to king, Xiao Feng could fly with his battle chi light wings. It was completely different from before when he had to rely on 2 feet to travel. In less than half a day, Xiao Feng flew over the magical Beast Mountain range and arrived at the Tranquil Desert. Along the way, Xiao Feng would occasionally encounter some human mercenaries and Naga warriors who were fighting. In the beginning, Xiao Feng even took action to stop them and resolve a few battles. When Xiao Feng found that the 2 groups of people were fighting again after he left, he was no longer interested in taking action. Teacher, why can't humans and Naga coexist peacefully? Xiao Feng felt that it was meaningless for the 2 races to fight each other like this, apart from causing casualties on both sides. No, at least not in this place. Why? Xiao Feng was very surprised by the Supreme Pill Spirit's words. He could not understand why they could not live peacefully. Survival. For survival, the Supreme Pill Spirit sighed. What is this place? This is a desert. Whether it is humans or Naga, they all need water and food. However, water and food are the least here. So that's how it is. Xiao Feng heard the supreme pill spirit's words and immediately understood. The two races living in the Tarkal Desert all wanted to survive and develop. It would inevitably lead to a fight for the water oasis, and killing was unavoidable. Teacher, the desert is such a hot and dry place. It shouldn't be suitable for Naga, right? Yes. The supreme pill spirit nodded and then smiled at Xiao Feng. When you go to find Medusa this time, you can use a suitable territory as the price for them to form an alliance with you. Territory? Teacher, are you joking? In this world, every piece of land had an owner. Where else is there? Hearing the words of the supreme alchemy spirit, Xiao Feng was clearly taken aback. Black Corner region. It was a land of chaos, a land without a master. It's a vast and boundless land with abundant resources and a suitable temperature. Supreme Elixir Spirit chuckled and continued. Starting a war in the fringe will not attract the attention of other forces. You and Medusa led the Naga tribe to fight and kill. Not only can I improve myself through constant battles, but I can also conquer a territory and have a solid backing. Thank you for your guidance, teacher. Xiao Feng's blood began to boil. If he could form an alliance with Medusa, then according to what his teacher had said, he would really be able to conquer a territory in the Black Corner region. Medusa would definitely become a loyal ally. This way, the Xiao clan would have another path of retreat. Once they encountered danger, not only would they be able to retreat to Medusa's territory, but they would also be able to borrow the strength of their allies to deal with the enemy. Very good. Let's do that. After making up his mind, Xiao Feng activated his battle energy light wings and sped all the way to Medusa's main city. Not long after, a huge desert oasis appeared in front of him. A huge and unique city appeared in front of Xiao Feng. Human, how dare you barge in my snake tribe's main city? You're courting death. Just as Xiao Feng was about to land, a loud roar suddenly sounded from the city in front of him. A huge pitch-black snake shadow soared into the sky. The huge snake head opened its huge mouth filled with dense fangs and bit down at Xiao Feng. Damn it, they didn't even give me a chance to speak. They attacked as soon as they saw me. Xiao Feng felt depressed in his heart. He was not here to fight, but with the current situation, he had no choice but to fight. Mountain shifting seal. Xiao Feng had no choice but to fight first. With a loud roar, he formed a seal with his hands. His strength was as strong as pushing a mountain. Battle energy erupted, and the image of a mountain appeared in Xiao Feng's hand. It met the huge snake head and fiercely collided with it. Boom! A huge tremor shook the heavens and the earth. Although Xiao Feng only had the strength of a Do Wong, he was not at a disadvantage when fighting with Medusa, who was at the peak of the Do Huang realm. Although he did not use his full strength at this moment, it was not difficult for him to deal with this snake tribe expert, who was also a Do Wong. Under the huge tremor, the pitch-black snake's shadow immediately collapsed. The snake tribe Do Wong who attacked let out a muffled groan. His figure quickly retreated and landed on the huge city wall of King City. Damn human, how dare you behave so atrociously in my snake tribe's main city? Another roar sounded from the city. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A few figures broke through the air and landed on the city wall. Everyone, please don't attack. I'm here to visit. Before Xiao Feng could finish his words, he saw the 5 Do Wongs on the city wall form a strange formation. The battle energy on their bodies merged into one. 5 snake poison seal. The 5 of them shouted in unison. Their hands formed a strange seal, and a huge energy light pillar rushed to the sky. Hiss! A huge roar sounded from the light pillar. A huge green python spiraled out from the light pillar. Its huge aura shook the surroundings. In an instant, the wind whistled and sand and rocks flew. Damn it! Seeing this momentum, Xiao Feng felt very depressed. This 5-snake poison seal was very powerful. If he did not use his full strength to deal with it, he might be at a disadvantage. However, if he used his full strength, there might be deaths and injuries. This did not match the purpose of Xiao Feng's trip. Brat, What is the triple jade eyes that I gave you for? The grand elixir spirit heavily snorted. That's right. Xiao Feng rejoiced in his heart. Since Xiao Feng had never used this newly acquired skill before, he didn't even think of using it when he was facing an enemy. At this moment, after hearing the grand elixir spirit's reminder, Xiao Feng felt confident. Combine the thunderclap magic mantra with the triple jade eyes. The effect will be better. The grand elixir spirit reminded again. I understand. Xiao Feng nodded and roared to the sky. Tut! A thunderous sound rushed out. The mighty thunder shook the surroundings. The majestic and vast power blasted towards the 5 people on the city wall. At the same time, 3 dark golden runes lit up in Xiao Feng's eyes. An invisible wave followed the thunder and rushed towards the 5 people in the formation. The thunderclap magic mantra's soul-shaking power rushed over. The 5-snake clan Do Wong in the formation trembled, and the hand seals in their hands suddenly stopped. The hand seals could not continue, and the formation was instantly broken. The light pillar that reached the sky exploded, and the huge snake shadow roared and turned into smoke. Immediately after, an invisible wave swept across the area. The 5-snake clan Do Wong in the formation were shocked to the point that their souls were in a mess. They were absent-minded and vaguely felt a sense of submission to Xiao Feng. It's finally settled. Xiao Feng breathed a sigh of relief. The triple jade eyes were indeed extraordinary. After settling the dispute, Xiao Feng raised his head and shouted towards the city. My name is Xiao Feng. I'm here to visit Queen Medusa. Hurry up and report this. I'm already here. A 7-colored haze billowed in front of Xiao Feng, and Medusa's beautiful figure appeared in front of Xiao Feng. I'm very happy that you can come. A bright smile bloomed on Medusa's face. Chapter 116. Your Majesty, I have something important to discuss with you this time. After following Medusa to the capital, the 2 of them sat down in a hall. Xiao Feng went straight to the point and told her the purpose of this trip. The Naga race has lived in the Taggart Desert for many years. However, this place is not suitable for the survival and development of a Naga race in terms of climate, environment, and resources. Xiao Feng raised his head and looked at Medusa. He said seriously, I think the Black Corner region is a good place. The climate and resources there are very suitable. More importantly, it is a chaotic place. No matter how big the commotion is, no one will pay attention. Therefore, I want to form an alliance with the Naga race. We will conquer the Black Corner region together and take down a large territory. Xiao Feng was beaming with joy as he spoke. However, although the smile on Medusa's face was the same as before, the joy in her eyes was diminishing. You can't tell me this? Medusa smiled and looked at Xiao Feng. She reached out and poured a cup of tea for Xiao Feng. She looked at Xiao Feng with a smile. I came to discuss this matter with the queen. Xiao Feng nodded. At this time, the supreme elixir spirit's shout suddenly sounded in his mind. Boy, if you want to form an alliance with Medusa, then follow what I taught you. Say that you want to see the beautiful scenery of the Naga kingdom. Scenery? What scenery is there? Xiao Feng was stunned. He found the supreme elixir spirit's words inconceivable. Other than a large oasis, the Naga race was filled with yellow sand. What scenery was there to see? Do you still want to form an alliance? If you want to form an alliance, then do as I say. Do you think I would harm you? The supreme elixir spirit roared at Xiao Feng. All right. Xiao Feng could only follow the supreme elixir spirit's instructions and continued his previous words. Other than that, I have also yearned for the scenery of the Naga kingdom for a long time. This time, I also want to see the beautiful scenery of a Naga kingdom. Beautiful scenery? The smile on Queen Medusa's face was like a blooming flower. Her eyes flickered with surprise, but her face was faintly flushed. Beautiful scenery? The Serpent Men tribe was in the wilderness. Other than a few oases, there was only yellow sand everywhere. How could there be any scenery? Then, the only truly beautiful scenery was Medusa stole a glance at Xiao Feng, and her face suddenly became a little shy. Your Majesty, what do you think of my proposal to form an alliance? Xiao Feng saw that Medusa was smiling very brightly after hearing him mention the beautiful scenery. She seemed to have forgotten about the alliance that he had proposed and hurriedly asked, "Alliance?" The ambiguous atmosphere that had just been created was completely destroyed by Xiao Feng's words. Medusa rolled her eyes and felt annoyed in her heart. Seriously, why did he suddenly mention this? Your previous suggestion was not bad. Naturally, forming an alliance is not a problem. Since they were talking about serious matters, Medusa also became serious. I have also heard some news about the Black Corner region. It is indeed a good place to go. However, the migration of the entire tribe is no small matter. We must first investigate. Your Majesty has considered everything very thoroughly. Xiao Feng picked up his teacup and took a sip. He nodded. I will contribute to the investigation. You just need to arrange some people to go with me. There is no need to arrange for other people. I will go personally. Medusa smiled at Xiao Feng. The migration of the entire tribe, and we will still have to face continuous battles. I will not be at ease if others go. I will go with you. This is good too. Xiao Feng was very happy to see that Medusa was taking this matter so seriously and was even going to investigate personally. This way, the alliance between the Xiao family and the Serpent Men tribe had been reached. In the future, as long as their interests were closely linked, they would definitely be a reliable ally. After a short conversation, Medusa brought Xiao Feng to tour the Serpent Men tribe. Since he said that he was here to look at the scenery, Xiao Feng naturally could not refuse. Then, the two of them appeared in pairs in various habitats of the Serpent Men tribe. 7 days had passed since the 12 tribes had been traversed through. This is the red-scaled snake fruit. It is a delicacy of the red-scaled tribe. Beside a small oasis stream, Medusa plucked a scarlet fruit from a bush and handed it to Xiao Feng. Come try it. Thank you. Xiao Feng smiled and reached out to take the scarlet fruit from Medusa's hand. When his fingers touched Medusa's soft, boneless fingers, Xiao Feng's heart trembled slightly. After a few days of interaction, Medusa's gentleness and beauty left a deep impression on Xiao Feng. All right, gentleness. The supreme elixir spirit snorted. She is gentleness to you. Queen Medusa's fierce reputation is well known. She is cold and arrogant, decisive and merciless. You're the only one who has not heard of her, right? You're the only one who has not heard of her, right? Good times always pass too quickly. Not long after, the two of them returned to Medusa's royal city. These few days, I have traveled all over the sky, snake 12 tribes. I have finished everything that needs to be done. We can set off for the Black Corner region. After returning to the royal city, Medusa took care of the tribe's affairs and appeared in front of Xiao Feng again. At this moment, Medusa was dressed very plainly. There was no longer the iconic heavenly snake crown, no gorgeous jewelry, and no noble and gorgeous dress. She was only wearing a plain white dress. She looked no different from an ordinary human girl, except for her beautiful face. After evolving into the 7-colored heaven-devouring python, Medusa turned into a 16 or 17-year-old girl. When she stood next to Xiao Feng, one had an imposing appearance, and the other was gentle and pretty, like a lotus flower emerging from the water. They were simply a perfect pair. After leaving the royal city, the two of them rode on their battle energy light wings and flew. Not long after, the two of them arrived at Rock Desert City. Since they had formed an alliance with Medusa, the Xiao brothers' mercenary group had to know of this news to avoid conflicts with the Snake People tribe in the future. Xiao Feng, you are back. In the mercenary group's hall, Xiao Ding and Xiao Li were discussing how to expand the mercenary group. At this moment, Xiao Feng walked in with Medusa. Brothers, Xiao Feng greeted the two of them before introducing Medusa to them. This is my friend, as well as an ally that I've found. She is the Queen Medusa of the Snake People tribe. She represents the Snake People tribe. Queen Medusa? Hearing this name, Xiao Ding and Xiao Li both stood up in shock, and the chairs they were sitting on fell to the ground with a thud. The two of them looked at the smiling Medusa beside Xiao Feng with a pale face. They blinked and seemed to have some doubts. Such a pretty girl. Was she really the infamous Queen Medusa? If it was true, then Xiao Feng. At this moment, the two Xiao brothers were full of admiration for Xiao Feng. You dare to hook up with such a woman? Brother, you are too powerful. Brother, you have sacrificed too much for the alliance. Chapter 117. I am Medusa. Medusa revealed a gentle smile and gently nodded at the two Xiao brothers. When the two Xiao brothers saw Medusa's gentle smile and heard her soft voice, their bodies trembled a few times. How could the infamous Queen Medusa be so gentle? Don't scare me, okay? The two Xiao brothers looked at Xiao Feng and felt that this brother was really like a high mountain. Queen Medusa is actually so gentle in front of you. What a good tactic. The discussion that followed was very smooth. The two Xiao brothers seemed to be very respectful toward Medusa. When they heard the news of an alliance, they immediately agreed happily. Medusa gathered her subordinates and met with the Xiao brothers to set the main idea of the alliance. After which, she let them discuss the details themselves. The remaining matters were more complicated. However, there was no need for Medusa and Xiao Feng to intervene. The two of them left Rock Desert City and hurried toward the Black Corner region. Xiao Feng and Medusa dragged their long wings of light as they flew through the air. They passed by the Jiangma Empire's border and a few small countries. A dark, vast plain appeared in front of the two of them. This is the Great Plains of the Black region. Seeing the vast black land in front of him, Xiao Feng turned his head and smiled at Medusa. From here onwards, we are already in the territory of the Black Corner region. Yes. Medusa smiled and nodded. I have also heard of the Black Corner region. However, I don't know much about it. Why don't we go down and understand the situation here? I have the same intention. Xiao Feng laughed heartily, after which he said to Medusa, it is said that this is a chaotic land. There's only the law of the jungle. When we go down later, you must not be soft-hearted if we meet any problems. You still want her to not be soft-hearted? The Grand Pill Spirit secretly laughed. You want Queen Medusa to not be soft-hearted? She had never been soft-hearted before. Yes. Medusa smiled sweetly and nodded at Xiao Feng. After which, the two of them pressed down their Do-Chi light wings and landed on the Black Plains. The ground beneath his feet was pitch black, and the sky above his head seemed to be somewhat gloomy. This made the Blackfield Great Plains look very gloomy. Thus, this was a place where evil thrived. The two of them traveled on the black soil, and it didn't take long for them to encounter a small nomadic tribe. A few linoleum tents were set up beside a stream. 7 or 8 middle-aged men seemed to be washing freshly slaughtered cattle and sheep in the stream. What a beautiful woman. Ha! Someone actually delivered themselves to my doorstep. When the middle-aged men by the stream saw Xiao Feng and Medusa walking over, especially when they saw the peerless beauty of Medusa, they immediately cried out in surprise. Kill the man, leave the woman alive. With a loud roar, several middle-aged men brandished the sharp knives in their hands and charged forward. It really is the fringe. Xiao Feng turned to look at Medusa and smiled helplessly. So, don't be soft-hearted. Raising his arm, Xiao Feng raised his palm and waved it down at the few middle-aged men charging over. A whistling wind tore through the air and heavily chopped down at the few middle-aged men. This was the mountain-splitting palm. The Xiao family's yellow rangdo technique was basically something that did not make the cut. At this moment, this palm was unleashed from Xiao Feng's hands, but it similarly possessed a shocking power. Bang! A powerful gale rushed up and directly blasted the few middle-aged men away. Fresh blood spurted wildly all the way as they fell heavily to the ground and never moved again. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit took the opportunity to activate the resource recovery function of the small and medium-sized resource warehouse in the ring and collected the souls of these few people, after which it directly decomposed and extracted all the information about the Black Corner region. Unfortunately, these few people were only nomadic tribes on the Blackfield Great Plains. The things they knew were only some of the things on the Blackfield Great Plains. Xiao Feng brat, I suggest that you directly pass through the Blackfield Great Plains and go to Blackmark City to get some information first. Then, you could decide how to make your move. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit directly gave Xiao Feng a hint based on the information it had collected. Blackmark City. Xiao Feng nodded. He already had a deep understanding of the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit's omniscience, and also agreed with the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit's words, just as he was planning to discuss with Medusa and directly fly over. When he turned his head to look at Medusa, he discovered that she had actually pulled out a horse carriage from behind a large tent at some unknown time. I found a horse carriage. Let's take the carriage and hurry on the journey. Seeing Medusa's expression of interest, Xiao Feng could only helplessly comply. Giddy up! Xiao Feng and Medusa sat side by side in the horse carriage and drove at full speed all the way. There were no roads on the Blackfield Great Plains. There were roads everywhere here. According to the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit's instructions, Xiao Feng drove the carriage and rushed in the direction of the Blackmark City. Actually, it was also Li Yu's idea to let Xiao Feng come to the Black Corner region. The Jialan Academy was in the Black Corner region. The girl in the Jialan Academy, who was known as the Brute Force Queen, was a young ancient void dragon who had swallowed the transformation grass and transformed into human form. Li Yu needed the ancient void dragon's blood, so he had to get it from her. If it was just for the spirit energy barrier on the dragon and phoenix corpses, there was no need to go through so much trouble. It wasn't difficult for the system to directly take away the spirit energy barrier. The real problem was that without the ancient void dragon's bloodline's deterrence, Xiao Feng would have no choice but to kill his way into the beast region. Not only would this take a lot of trouble, but it would also draw out some old monsters with terrifying strength. That would be very troublesome. Thus, obtaining the ancient void dragon's blood was the most appropriate method. The horse carriage sped along. Xiao Feng and Medusa drove the horse carriage through the Blackfield Great Plains. Along the way, they overturned the robbers who blocked their way and killed the merchants who had turned into bandits in the blink of an eye. It took them 3 days to complete the journey that could be done in half an hour by flying. Xiao Feng was helpless, but Medusa was very happy. A huge city made of pitch-black stone appeared in front of them. Is this Blackmark City? Xiao Feng and Medusa glanced at each other, then drove the horse carriage towards Blackmark City. Huh, what a beautiful girl. This young master wants her. Not far from the city gates, a group of figures in blood-red robes appeared on the side of the road. When Xiao Feng drove the horse carriage past, a blood-red robed youth with a pale face suddenly saw Medusa smiling sweetly beside Xiao Feng. Medusa's looks were so devastating that it would be strange if she didn't cause trouble in a place like the Black Corner region. Kill! When they heard the blood-red robed youth's words, the group of blood-red robed people didn't hesitate in the slightest. They immediately attacked. Streaks of blood-red light soared into the sky and transformed into huge blood-red claws. They then charged towards Xiao Feng, who was on the carriage. The overflowing stench of blood filled the air, and the stench was nauseating. Scram! Xiao Feng raised his head and roared. He waved his hand and swept out with his palm. Dazzling golden light flashed. It was merely an ordinary shattering palm, but with Xiao Feng's immense strength, it still possessed shocking divine might. Bang! Xiao Feng's palm strike shattered the blood-red shadows that filled the sky. The powerful wind sent the blood-red robed people flying. Chapter 118. You have some skills. When the blood-red clothed youth saw that Xiao Feng had sent his subordinate flying with a single move, a cold light flashed across his malicious eyes. He coldly glanced at Xiao Feng and said, "Unfortunately, you've provoked someone you shouldn't have. Kid, you're dead." The blood-red clothed youth took a step forward and coldly stared at Xiao Feng. A bright red light lit up in his hand. "I'm from the blood sect, noisy." Xiao Feng angrily roared. He raised his head and threw a punch. The Hanzhan seal of the 9 mountain moving seals was a clenched fist. The Hanzhan seal shook the mountains with a single punch. An enormous force exploded, destroying mountains and breaking peaks. This group of people's martial arts were extremely evil, and their actions were also extremely evil. Why would Xiao Feng waste his breath on them? In a place like the Black Corner region, one could only use thunderous methods to intimidate others so that they wouldn't dare to provoke you. This group of people in front of him was obviously an excellent target for him to establish his authority. A dazzling golden radiance flashed as a golden fist exploded with a monstrous force and smashed down on the blood-red, clothed youth. Boom! A loud sound that shook the earth and the mountains. The blood-red clothed youth didn't even have time to scream before he was blasted apart by Xiao Feng's punch. You dare to kill my young sect leader? Damn it, you're dead. Our blood sect will fight you to the death. My sect leader is an expert on the blacklist with a Do Huang cultivation. Kid, you're dead. Seeing that Xiao Feng had blasted the blood-red clothed youth apart with a single punch, the group of blood-red clothed people let out a series of horrified cries. Oomph. Blood sect? Xiao Feng glanced at the remaining blood-red clothed people and threw another punch at them. A force as heavy as a mountain crushed them into a bloody mist. Xiao Feng, kid, you've learned the King Kong technique, and you must follow the King Kong way. Killing is to protect, and slaying is not slaying. So, recite the rebirth mantra. Rebirth mantra? Xiao Feng was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly and shook his head. He felt a little powerless towards the strange request of the supreme pill spirit. All right, remove all negative karma and obtain a pure land. Namo Amrit night. A burst of strange Sanskrit chants resounded, and a brilliant golden radiance blossomed on Xiao Feng's body. Xiao Feng, who was chanting the Sanskrit, looked solemn and compassionate. The vast and merciful radiance sprinkled on the blood-stained ground, and all the evil and filth were cleansed by this golden radiance. The souls of those people in blood-red robes showed up in the golden light. They put their palms together and smiled at Xiao Feng, as if they had been enlightened. Then they disappeared in the light. Of course, they weren't truly reborn in paradise, but had fallen into the devil's claws of the supreme pill spirit. The supreme pill spirit took the opportunity to retrieve and decompose the souls of a few people, extracting all the information. This was the supreme pill spirit's goal. What Vajra Dao, what rebirth mantra was all nonsense. In the future, there would be more times to collect souls and extract information. As Xiao Feng's strength increased, he would soon be able to detect the existence of soul bodies. It was better to give an open and above-board reason for this kind of thing. Regarding Xiao Feng's actions, whether it was Medusa or the other spectators in the Black Mark City, they were all somewhat confused. A moment ago, he was brimming with killing intent, and the next moment, he was compassionate. Were these the tears of a crocodile? Kid, the person you killed has quite a big background. He is the Blood Sect's young sect master. This Blood Sect is one of the forces in the Black Corner region. They control a vast area and have a huge city. After extracting all the information, the Supreme Pill Spirit began to remind Xiao Feng. Vast area? Huge city? Xiao Feng's eyes lit up, and he turned his head to look at Medusa. These people came from a force called Blood Sect. It seems that their background isn't small. Blood Sect? Then let's destroy them. Medusa smiled and nodded, casually saying those words that were filled with killing intent. Yes, since we've already provoked them, then we might as well fight our way to their door. In any case, we came here to conquer a territory, so let's start with this Blood Sect. Xiao Feng wasn't an indecisive person, so he immediately made a decision. Although the Supreme Pill Spirit had told Xiao Feng the location of the Blood Sect, Xiao Feng wasn't in a good position to expose the Supreme Pill Spirit. Therefore, he casually grabbed a person on the side of the road and asked about the location of the Blood Sect. Then he unfolded his Do Chi light wings, and two streams of light soared into the sky. Following the Supreme Pill Spirit's guidance, the two of them flew all the way. At this time, the Supreme Pill Spirit told Xiao Feng the other information extracted from the souls of the people from the Blood Sect. Xiao Feng, kid, The blood sex cultivation method is strange and evil and can absorb the blood of a human body. However, for this kind of evil cultivation method, you have the true sun fire, which is their nemesis. That's great. When Xiao Feng heard the supreme pill spirit's news, he felt a burst of joy in his heart. After all, the blood sect was a large force, so they definitely had a lot of people. With Xiao Feng and Medusa's cultivation, the blood sect's master, who was only at the Do Huang realm, was nothing. However, having too many enemies was also troublesome. Now that he knew that the true sun fire could restrain the blood sect's cultivation method, Xiao Feng was even more confident. No matter how many people came, he would just burn them all. The two of them flew all the way, and soon a huge mountain city stood in front of them. It was a mountain city. The entire city was built on top of a huge mountain. Starting from the foot of the mountain, layers of buildings surrounded the entire mountain like a spiral. Under the cover of the forest, the buildings were partly hidden and partly visible. The environment here. When Medusa saw the mountain city in front of them, she raised her eyebrows, and a trace of surprise flashed through her eyes. The yuan qi of heaven and earth here leans towards the yin qi, which is very suitable for us snake people to live in. Oh, that's a coincidence. Xiao Feng laughed and turned his head to look at Medusa. Then, let's start our journey of conquest here. With a flap of the Do Qi light wings, the two of them whizzed into the sky above the mountain city. Where is the master of the blood sect? Come quickly and accept your death. Xiao Feng spread out his Do Qi light wings and floated in the air as he roared at the mountain city. What's going on? Is someone attacking us? After this loud roar, the entire mountain city was in an uproar. Which scoundrel dares to be so presumptuous in my blood sect's territory? A furious roar sounded in the mountain city. Bloody figures whizzed through the sky, covering the entire mountain city with a layer of bright red blood fog. Within the churning blood fog, a figure whose entire body was shining with a bloody light soared into the sky. Two huge bloody light wings were dragging behind him, and the churning blood fog formed a huge bloody fog in the air. A mere Do Wang realm warrior dares to be so presumptuous in my blood sect? Brat, you're courting death. The master of the blood sect, Fan Lao, raised his bloody eyes and swept them over Xiao Feng and Medusa. He coldly snorted, and a bloody light that blotted the sky exploded from his hand. Soul-devouring bloody palm. The bloody light soared into the sky and turned into a huge bloody palm, violently slamming down towards Xiao Feng and Medusa. Insignificant skill. A cold smile appeared on the corner of Xiao Feng's mouth. Facing the huge bloody palm that blotted the sky, he slowly raised his arm, and a golden radiance lit up on his fingertip. Sun golden flame. The brilliant sun shone upon the heavens and the earth. A huge golden fire lotus bloomed in the air. Chapter 119. Boom! The glorious sun shone over the world as a majestic golden-yellow flame swept across the sky. A huge golden-colored fire lotus rose. The monstrous blood fog was like snow in a furnace, instantly disappearing without a trace. The monstrous fire directly enveloped the blood sect leader, Fan Lao. Fan Lao let out a miserable shriek. The bloodlight all over his body was burned by the golden-yellow flame. His entire body turned into a huge pillar of fire. In just a moment, the blood sect leader, a Do Huang expert on the blacklist, was burned to ashes by someone. Sect leader. In a mountain city of the blood sect, countless blood sect disciples cried out in shock when they saw the scene in front of them. They didn't dare to believe that this was real. The sect leader of the blood sect is dead. Xiao Feng waved his hand and withdrew the true sun flame. He landed in front of the mountain city and shouted toward the mountain city. From today onwards, this place belongs to me. When Xiao Feng said these words, the entire mountain city became silent. Run! A moment later, a loud cry sounded. A few bloody lights whizzed out and fled in all directions. Judging from the Dochi wings behind these people, they were all Do Wongs. They must have planned to take advantage of this opportunity to escape. Oomph. Medusa raised her eyebrows and gently waved her hand. The seven-colored cloud on her fingertip rotated and transformed into a few tiny seven-colored snake shadows that whizzed out. Pooh! 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 The seven-colored snakes passed through their bodies. A few figures that had soared into the sky screamed and fell from the sky. With a boom sound, they smashed on the ground and no longer made any sound. The sect leader, who was at the Do Huang realm, was burned to ashes. The elders, who were at the Do Wang realm, were killed just as they were about to escape. The entire mountain city was silent. Everyone was frightened by Xiao Feng and Medusa's ferocious might to the point that they kept quiet out of fear. In a chaotic place like the Black Corner region, the only rule was strength. In this way, the rule of the strong being respected was deeply ingrained in everyone's hearts. Xiao Feng and Medusa had killed the upper echelons of the Blood Sect. When they went down to take over the Blood Sect, the tens of thousands of people in the mountain city didn't resist at all. There was no sense of honor or loyalty to the sect. Of course, in a place like the Black Corner region, it was a little extravagant to mention honor and loyalty. Originally, he had only come out to investigate. Unexpectedly, he had easily conquered a territory and gained control of it. This caught Medusa and Xiao Feng off guard. After that, he became even more fervent about conquering the Black Corner region. With Xiao Feng's strength, which was not weaker than a Do Huang, and adding Medusa's strength, which had been promoted to a Do Zong after a revolution, he could be said to be invincible within the Black Corner region. After winning the first battle, Medusa hurriedly sent a message back to the Naga tribe, and the rest of the army continued to move over. A great war began in this turbulent land. Time passed day by day amidst the battles and battles. Unknowingly, 2 years had already passed. 2 years later, in the Black Corner region, a huge new faction was born. Among the old factions, the Blood Sect had disappeared, the Black Skeleton Graveyard had disappeared, and the 8 Doors had also disappeared. This territory, which was formed by 3 huge cities and vast mountains and plains, was now called the Wind Alliance. Then, as the peak faction that stood in the middle of the Black Corner region, the Jialan Academy could no longer sit still. The rise of the Wind Alliance directly swept away all the surrounding factions and caused a huge commotion in the Black Corner region. It was impossible for the Jialan Academy to ignore this. Although they didn't have to take action, they had to come into contact with and understand the Wind Alliance. When an old man brought a white-clothed young lady to the Black Mark City and saw Xiao Feng, Li Yu's plan finally came to fruition. Very good. The brute force young lady has appeared. When the Grand Pill Spirit reported the situation to Li Yu couldn't help but laugh loudly. Countless serpent men had appeared in the Wind Alliance. As the humanoid ancient void dragon brute force young lady, the brute force young lady, Violet Mist, had an innate soul deterrence that exerted a natural pressure on the serpent men. The Jialan Academy wanted to display their strength, but didn't want to directly start a war. Violet Mist was a very suitable candidate. Everything was proceeding as expected. Next was to obtain the ancient void dragon's blood. As long as they obtained the ancient void dragon's blood, they could enter the beast region and enter the ancient ruins. This old man is Su Qian, the great elder of the Jialan Academy. In the main hall of the Black Mark City residence, the Jialan Academy's Su Qian was meeting with Xiao Feng and Medusa. The 2 alliance heads are so young, yet you've already established such a large foundation. You're truly young and promising. Su Qian sat in a chair, picked up a teacup, and took a sip. He exchanged pleasantries with Xiao Feng and Medusa. Elder Su, you flatter us. Xiao Feng smiled. The Jialan Academy's name has shaken the continent. I've also admired it for a long time. Oomph. At that moment, Medusa suddenly stared at the white-robed girl, Violet Mist. She snorted coldly, her expression extremely unhappy. HM, what's going on? Xiao Feng glanced at Medusa before raising his eyes to stare at the young lady in white. He frowned slightly. So she's not human. Medusa coldly swept her gaze over the white-robed girl. You actually used soul intimidation to test me? Little girl, you're still too inexperienced. You're the one who's not human. When Violet Mist heard the words, not human, she instantly exploded. After being adopted by Elder Su Qian, Violet Mist had always lived in the Jialan Academy. Although she knew deep down that there was something wrong with her origins, she'd always thought of herself as human. Now, there was actually someone who didn't think of her as human. How could she endure this? Bastard. Medusa's expression turned cold. With a furious roar, she suddenly rose to her feet. Violet Mist's words of, "You're the one who's not human," pierced Medusa's heart. Medusa had been with Xiao Feng for a few years. She usually dressed like a human girl and didn't reveal any characteristics of the Naga tribe. This was because she didn't want Xiao Feng to have misgivings about her race and affect the progress of their relationship. Now that Violet Mist had said this, Medusa's heart was filled with anger and a seven-colored light surged from her hand. She was about to attack Violet Mist. Don't attack. Su Qian hurriedly stood up and pulled Violet Mist, shielding the white-robed girl behind him. Don't be angry. Xiao Feng reached out and grabbed Medusa's hand. He looked deeply at Medusa and smiled at her. You don't have to worry. Medusa's face flushed red, and she lowered her head slightly. How could someone as intelligent as Medusa not understand Xiao Feng's meaning? Don't have to worry. Naturally, it didn't matter what race she was or what background she had. It wouldn't be a problem. The sudden conflict had calmed down. Xiao Feng and Su Qian both let out a sigh of relief. If the two forces became enemies because of this inexplicable reason, it would be too much of a joke. However, Xiao Feng, you brat, get a drop of blood from this white-robed girl. Hearing the Supreme Pill Spirit's words, Xiao Feng was stunned. He wanted to do this again. Chapter 120. Elder Su Qian, this lady's background is somewhat unusual. After sitting down again, Xiao Feng began to prepare to complete the task given by the Supreme Elixir Spirit. Although it was difficult to ask for a drop of blood, the Supreme Elixir Spirit's drop of blood last time had given him a very powerful innate skill. The drop of blood this time would definitely be a great harvest. Cough, cough. Elder Su Qian coughed a few times with a somewhat ashamed expression. He originally had bad intentions for bringing Ziyin here. His soul intimidation earlier had even angered Medusa. Now that he was exposed, Su Qian felt a little embarrassed. Little lady, Xiao Feng turned his head to look at Ziyin and said with a smile, I presume that you don't know your own background? Have you ever thought of finding out your own background? The Supreme Elixir Spirit hinted, this little lady wants to find out her own background. Xiao Feng immediately had an idea. So what? Ziyin arrogantly raised her head and looked at Xiao Feng with disdain. Even the people from the Jialan Academy can't figure out my background. Could it be that you are more powerful than them? Huh. Xiao Feng did not mind Ziyin's attitude. He smiled and continued. Although I might not be able to figure it out, my teacher will definitely be able to. Little lady, do you want to try? Your teacher? Hearing Xiao Feng's words, even Su Qian and Medusa became serious. Xiao Feng was not even 20 years old yet. Yet, he was able to have such great achievements and strength. The teacher who was able to teach him must be extremely powerful. Ziyin, this old man thinks that young Master Xiao can give it a try. Su Qian was also very curious about Ziyin's background. He wanted to see how powerful the teacher that Xiao Feng mentioned was, so he wanted Ziyin to give it a try. If that's the case, Ziyin nodded and said to Xiao Feng, then what do you plan to do? It's very simple. You just need to give me some blood. Xiao Feng chuckled as he extended his hand and handed over an empty pill bottle. Give me some fresh blood. I showed it to the teacher. With teacher's erudition, it shouldn't be difficult for him to distinguish your background. Is that so? Ziyin looked at Su Qian and saw him nod. She reached out and took the bottle. She bit her finger and dripped her blood into the bottle. After a dozen drops of blood, the wound on Ziyin's finger began to heal. Ziyin raised her hand and was about to put it into her mouth again when Xiao Feng stopped her. Enough! Enough! Xiao Feng reached out and took the jade bottle from Ziyan's hand. Then, he waved his hand and put it into his ring. I will give the blood to teacher. The results will be out in a few days. When the time comes, I will send someone to deliver a letter to the Canary Academy. Following this, the group continued to converse for a while. After clarifying the positions of both sides and ensuring that they were not hostile, Su Qian took Ziyin and left. Teacher, why do you need that little girl's blood? Returning to the room, Xiao Feng could not wait to ask the Supreme Pill Spirit. Hee. Of course it was useful. Dragon blood. This is dragon blood. That little girl is a young ancient void dragon. Dragon race? No matter how tough Xiao Feng's nerves were, he was still shocked by this news. Teacher, the dragon race has not appeared on the mainland for countless years. Is that little girl really a dragon? How could I be wrong? The Supreme Pill Spirit snorted and continued. However, this little bit of dragon blood is too little. It can only be used to refine a piece of equipment with dragon's aura. It's barely useful. Dragon's aura? Xiao Feng recalled Medusa's spiritual shock. The so-called dragon's aura should be this spiritual shock. If this thing was used well, it could still be very useful. In Wuyuan City, Liu laughed heartily. The ancient void dragon's blood is in my hands. Seeing the Supreme Pill Spirit hand over the ancient void dragon's blood, Liu quickly instructed the system. System, scan the ancient void dragon's blood. Scan complete. Ancient void dragon's blood information has been recorded. Very good. Now that the ancient void dragon's blood was in his hands, the next step of his plan could be carried out smoothly. Liu returned the ancient void dragon's blood to the Supreme Pill Spirit after scanning it. Liu wasn't very interested in this world's dragon bloodlines. According to Liu's standards, true dragons, true phoenixes, Qilins, and other divine beasts should at least have immortal strength. The dragons and phoenixes of this world were still a bit too weak. Now that the preparations were complete, Liu was just about to have the Supreme Pill Spirit trick Xiao Feng into going to the Beast region to search for ancient ruins when a sudden discovery made Liu pause. Because Liu saw Xiao Yan carrying a huge blunt sword and dark heavy buster sword on his back. Xiao Yan walked past Liu's shop with heavy footsteps. He was full of vigor. Liu just remembered that Xiao Yan was going to the Yunlan sect for an appointment. So, another good show is about to begin? Liu laughed heartily as he returned to the backyard. He had been in this world for a few years. According to Liu's plan, the first task in this world was to complete the construction of the merchant city. The second task was to make use of this time to cultivate. Now that he had completed the 4 extremities and reached the dragon realm, he estimated that it wouldn't be a problem for him to complete the dragon realm in 2 to 3 years. What was left was the construction of a merchant city. The preparations are complete. There shouldn't be a problem to plunder those resources. Once the Yunlan sect's matter is over, I'll let Xiao Feng go to the Beast region. Liu smiled. However, he thought of another problem. After I slapped, and someone called me a do-di, Han Tian couldn't sit still anymore, right? Then what will he do? Liu started to look forward to it. Time passed day by day. There was only 1 day left before the 3 years agreement. During these few days, Liu also paid attention to the movements in Wuyuan City. However, to his surprise, he didn't discover anything. The Hall of Souls didn't attack the Xiao family. Han Tiandi needs the Ancient Emperor's Jade to open the Ancient Emperor's Cave. It's impossible for him to give up. Then where is his target? Liu took a sip of tea and shook his head with a smile. Yunlan sect. Nailin Yinran pulled out her sword and carved another sword mark on the wall in front of her. For the past 3 years, I've carved a sword mark on this wall every day. Now, there are a total of 1,094 sword marks. Only 1 sword mark is left. Nailin Yinran sheathed her sword and looked out of the window. Her pretty face was cold as she said, "Tomorrow is the end of the 3-year period. Xiao Yan, I've waited for this day for 3 years. 3 years ago, when I broke off the engagement, I was called blind. I was mocked for 3 whole years. Xiao Yan, so what if you have the talent to become a pharmacist? So what if you regain the title of a genius? I will definitely defeat you. I want everyone to know that Nalan Yinran, was right. I want everyone to know that even if you, Xiao Yin, have the talent to become a pharmacist, you're still a trash. Let's see how you'll face others after being defeated by me. Chapter 121. Xiao Family, Xiao Yin. A young man wearing a black robe and carrying a giant sword stepped onto the peak of the Yunlan sect. Facing the aggressive gazes of the Yunlan sect members, the young man raised his head and announced his name. Xiao Yin, I've come as promised. The young man took a step forward. His imposing manner was like a raging inferno. Her posture of standing upright with her head held high and her fearless spirit was truly admirable. Xiao Yin, you're finally here. Nalan Yinran's face was cold. She held the hilt of her sword and walked out of the crowd step by step. As she moved, the cold sword aura whistled through the air. Waves of clang-clang, sounds shook the surroundings. I've been waiting for this day for 3 years. Nalan Yinran unsheathed her sword and stood upright. The cold sword aura flourished. Xiao Yin, you must be defeated by my sword today. I want everyone in the world to know that Nalan Yinran, did not make a mistake. Clang. The sound of a sword whistled. A gale whistled around Nalan Yinran. For a moment, the wind and clouds surged. Pointing her sword at Xiao Yin, Nalan Yinran sneered. Xiao Yin, you're a good-for-nothing. Whether it was 3 years ago or 3 years later, you'll always be a good-for-nothing. Wind's extremity, setting sun. With a shout, Nalan Yinran's figure soared into the air. The long sword in her hand produced a series of rapid vibrations. Endless gale condensed and spiraled on the blade. The dazzling sword light was like a brilliant sunset, poignant yet deadly. It's actually the wind's extremity? Guyi saw Nalan using the wind's extremity so decisively and sighed. Nalan, this child, is still holding back her anger. That must be the case. Elder Yin Suo of the Yunlan sect smiled. With Nalan's temperament, how could she bear the humiliation of breaking off the engagement 3 years ago? It's good to let her vent her anger. Yes. The other elder, Yun Lin, nodded his head and cast a contemptuous glance at Xiao Yin, who was standing in the middle of the field. He sneered, a brat from a small family. So what if he has the aptitude to become an alchemist? You want to step on the head of the Yunlan sect? Wind Extreme Sword? Xiao Yin held the dark, heavy buster sword in his hand and stood upright. He was not moved at all by the misty cloud sect's ultimate skill in Nalan Yinran's hand, and a faint smile floated on the corner of his mouth. Nalan Yinran, I'm no longer the boy from 3 years ago who could be bullied and trampled on by anyone. The title of trash should be given to someone else. Flame-swallowing wave, splitting ruler. The pitch-black blunt sword was suddenly swung, and a misty blue flame surged on the huge buster sword. The shadows of the buster sword that filled the sky transformed into a black pillar of light that pierced through the sky. It heavily struck the scene of a glorious sunset in the sky. Boom! A violent tremor rose to the sky. The wind whistled, and sand and pebbles flew. The smoke and dust settled, and 2 figures stood facing each other from a distance. They're actually evenly matched. Guyi frowned as he looked at the 2 people in the field. Even if Xiao Yin has the aptitude to become an alchemist, I've never heard of him becoming an apprentice to a famous teacher. He actually grew so quickly in just 3 years. Yinran has the Yunlan sect's nurturing, so it's reasonable for her to advance to a Dedosher. Xiao Yin is just a brat from an ordinary city-state family. Where do you get the resources to advance to a Dedosher in 3 years? This Do skill of his is also extraordinary. Elder Yun Lin frowned. It's comparable to our Yunlan sect's Wind Extreme Sword. It's at least a high profound level skill. Oomph. Elder Yun Suo heavily snorted. So what if he's a Dedosher? So what if he's a high profound level skill? Nalan Yinran hasn't used her full strength yet. Xiao Yin will definitely lose today. Hasn't used her full strength yet. Hearing this, Guyi and Yun Lin were very surprised. Could it be that Nalan Yinran still had an even more powerful skill? Why have they never heard of it before? In the field, the two people facing each other moved again. You should be proud that you were able to take my wind extreme sword. But Nalan Yinran's cold eyes suddenly became pitch black. In the deep darkness, there was an aura that could shake even the soul. Raising the long sword in her hand, Nalan Yinran sneered. But you will definitely lose today. Boom! A pitch-black aura exploded from Nalan Yinran's body. The deep darkness surged. Waves of mournful cries rang out from the black aura, shaking one's soul and shaking one's mind. At this moment, Nalan Yinran no longer had the otherworldly beauty of a fairy. It was as if she had turned into a demoness from the underworld. Demonic flames filled the sky. Ah, this is his soul. In his mind, Yao Lao's horrified shout rang out. Kid, run! Run! This is a trap! This is a trap! A trap? Xiaoyan's heart tightened. He turned his head and scanned his surroundings. He found that the people of the Yunlan sect had already formed a battle array. The huge aura connected together and faintly blocked Xiao Yan's path of retreat. The 3-year promise was actually a trap. There was a great enemy in front and no way out. Xiao Yan took a deep breath and tightly held the dark, heavy buster sword in his hand. Then let's fight. Heavenly Fire 3 Mysterious Change. A misty green flame exploded violently from his body. A huge power condensed in his body. A strange rune flashed on Xiao Yan's forehead. This was the clan tattoo. Xiao Yan, who had merged with the bloodline of the Battle Emperor, directly lit up the ancient Xiao clan tattoo when he activated the Heavenly Fire 3 Mysterious Change. The vast power of the bloodline exploded in his body. Xiao Yan's strength rose again. At this moment, Xiao Yan's strength had advanced to the battle spirit realm. Flame-swallowing wave, splitting ruler. He waved the heavy buster sword in his hand. A huge pillar of light violently collided with Nalan Yinran, who was in midair. The churning green lotus hellfire exploded on the buster sword. The huge pillar of green flame bombarded the monstrous demonic aura. Boom! A loud sound like an earthquake resounded. The monstrous flames surged like a raging tide and swept across the surroundings. The pillar of light dispersed the demonic aura and sent Nalan Yinran, who had transformed into a demoness, flying. Blood spurted wildly as Nalan Yinran fell heavily to the ground. Nalan Yinran, you lost. Xiao Yan coldly glanced at Nalan Yinran, who was lying on the ground. He raised his head again, because the Yunlan sect's elder, Yun Saw, was also surrounded by a black aura. He walked step by step toward Xiao Yan. You can actually defeat Nalan Yinran. You do have some ability. Yun Suo coldly stared at Xiao Yan. A cold smile appeared on his face. However, after stepping into the Yunlan sect today, you will never be able to leave. Great Elder, what is going on? At this moment, the shocked Guyi and Elder Yunlin stood up in shock. They saw Nalan Yinran, who was lying on the ground, still emitting a black aura. They saw Elder Yun Suo, who was also emitting a black aura. Then, they saw a large group of sect disciples who were also emitting a black aura. Guyi and Yunlin were stunned. This still the Yunlan sect? Why was everything in front of them so unfamiliar? Chapter 122. What's going on? Hee. Yin Suo turned around and looked at Guyi and Yunlin. His mouth carried a cold smile. Because my Yunlan sect has already joined Soul Palace. Soul Palace? Guyi and Yunlin looked at each other. They didn't know where Soul Palace came from. It really is Soul Palace. Yao Lao's voice rang in Xiao Yan's mind as he gnashed his teeth. What's the origin of Soul Palace? Xiao Yan quickly asked Yao Lao. Soul Palace is the top faction in Central State. They are mysterious, powerful, and have claws everywhere. They specialize in collecting souls. I was almost caught by them in the past. Yao Lao's voice carried a deep hatred. Kid, Soul Palace is too powerful. Prepare to fight with your life on the line. Whether or not you can escape will depend on your luck. Even Yao Lao can only fight with his life on the line. Xiao Yan had some understanding of the Ring Grandpa's strength. If Yao Lao could only fight with his life on the line, then how strong was the enemy? Xiao Yin was very clear that his do sure strength was probably not much different from an ant. Great Elder, why did we join Soul Palace? On the other side, Guyi and Yunlin were still very confused by the Yunlan sex change. Why? Of course it's because Yin Suo laughed loudly. Doqi erupted from his body, and an earth-shattering aura rippled out. Of course it's because of power. When Yun Suo released his aura, Guyi and Yunlin's expressions changed. Peak Do Huang, Guyi and Yunlin were already stunned. Yun Suo's strength was at most a Do Huang before. Now, he actually became a peak Do Huang in the blink of an eye. This caused Guyi and Yunlin to be dumbfounded. Soul Palace actually had such power? Xiao Yin. Yin Suo no longer paid any attention to Guyi and turned his head to look at Xiao Yin. Within the churning black gas, all over his body, flashed numerous human faces that were wailing in pain. The monstrous ferocity was extremely terrifying. Xiao Yin, I'm actually very curious. For a brat from a city-state family like you, for mere to do, sure strength brat, the Soul Hall actually paid such a huge price. As he walked toward Xiao Yin, Yun Suo had a sinister sneer on his face. However, since Soul Palace has named you, we must capture you. Of course, I'm happy that I can get such great benefits in return. So, accept your fate. Yin Suo roared. Billowing black smoke rose from his body and transformed into a giant claw. You're just a small city-state family. I can crush you to death with a flick of my finger. Yin Suo laughed wildly, waving his giant claw to grab Xiao Yan's head. Brat, prepare to go all out. Yao Lao's shout resounded in his mind. Xiao Yin fiercely inhaled a mouthful of air as the misty green flame in his hand surged. Then let's fight. A cyan flame rose from his left hand, and a white flame rose from his right hand. He clasped his hands together, and the two flames heavily collided. Buddha's Fury Lotus. Explode, explode, explode. Xiao Yin roared madly, unleashing a berserk skill of the fusion of the mystical fires. Rumble, an earth-shattering sound rang out as the violent flames violently exploded. The monstrous flames rushed up like a volcanic eruption. The violent flames carried the power to destroy everything as they swept across the entire mountain peak. The mountain rocks exploded, the flowers and trees exploded, and the pavilions exploded. Even a large formation on the mountain peak had countless cracks. Unfortunately, the large formation didn't shatter. Xiao Yin, who was blocked by this light, couldn't escape. The violent flames exploded, and Yun Suo, who was the first to be hit, was sent flying by the huge explosion. Even with Yun Suo's peak Do Huang cultivation, he was shaken by this violent explosion until he spat out blood and fell far away. Bastard! You're courting death. Yin Suo suffered a great loss and roared as he charged forward. Brat, accept your fate. Today, no one can save you. The black gas all over the sky turned into a huge pitch-black claw and clawed at Xiao Yan's head. Even a desperate move can't kill him. The strength of a peak Do Huang is really too strong. Looking at the huge claw coming down on him, Xiao Yan's heart was filled with despair. Who dares to bully my brother? An earth-shattering roar rang out. The huge voice was like a thunderclap, and the vast and majestic power smashed everything in front of it. The large formation that shrouded the mountain peak suddenly exploded, and a figure shining with golden light broke through the air. With a flash of golden light, the figure covered in golden armor stood in front of Xiao Yin like a towering mountain. Brother Feng. At this moment, Xiao Yin cried tears of joy. Facing the huge claw coming down on him, the golden-armored figure looked up to the sky and roared, "Get lost!" He raised his hand and punched. A brilliant golden light rushed up, and a fist as heavy as a mountain smashed down on Yun Suo. A divine mountain shining with golden light appeared, and the power to crush everything violently collided. Boom! The fist was like a mountain, The golden divine mountain directly crushed the huge claw formed by the black gas, and then violently slammed into Yun Sua's body. Bang! The violent power was invincible and unstoppable. Yun Sa, the first elder of the Yunlan sect, who was at the peak of the Do Huang level, was directly smashed into a bloody mist by this punch. Unparalleled divine power. Monstrous divine power. With one blow, a Do Huang expert was smashed into pieces. Everyone in the Misty Cloud sect was so frightened that they let out a terrifying shriek. They shivered under this overflowing divine might. Brother Feng. Xiaoyan raised his head and looked at Xiao Feng. His eyes were red, and his voice was choked with sobs. Yes, I'm here. Brother, today I'll help you. Xiao Feng patted Xiaoyan's shoulder and nodded. With one step, the entire mountain peak shook. Xiao Feng turned his head and glanced at everyone in the Yunlan sect. Anger appeared on his face. Your Yunlan sect dares to bully my Xiao family? Who gave you the courage? With a roar, a vast aura erupted. For a moment, the wind and clouds surged, and the sky changed color. What kind of earth-shattering cultivation is this? Guye's face was pale, and he struggled to withstand this aura. Raising his eyes to look at the majestic young man, Guye was extremely shocked. 3 years ago, he was sent flying by this young man with one punch. 3 years later, this young man smashed Yun Sua, who was at the peak of the Do Huang level, with one punch. How can our Yunlan sect provoke such a person, such a family? Great Elder, you've caused so much trouble for the Yunlan sect. Guye's heart was filled with bitterness. I'm the one who gave them the courage. At this moment, a cold voice rang out. In the forbidden area of the Yunlan sect, there was a sudden surge of wind and clouds, and endless black fog surged. A white-haired old man wearing a black robe stepped on the black fog and landed on the mountain peak's plaza. The old sect leader has come out. That's great. The old sect leader has advanced to the Do Zone level. He's out. Seeing this figure appear, the Yunlan sect's plaza erupted in cheers. Do Zone. Xiao Feng raised his head and looked at the Yunlan sect's old sect leader, Yun Shan, with a cold smile on his face. He reached out, and a 4-foot-long Vajra demon, subduing pestle, appeared in his hand. You? With a roar, Xiao Feng waved the Vajra demon, subduing pestle in his hand. Chapter 123. This is... When Xiaoyan saw the Vajra scepter in Xiao Feng's hand, his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. His heart was in turmoil. This thing looks very familiar. Back in the other world, when he was traveling to the highlands, he saw this thing. This is clearly a Buddhist artifact, right? Why would it appear in Xiao Feng's hands? Where did this thing come from? At this moment, Xiaoyan was stunned. Then, Xiao Feng's next move made him so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. Vajra protection, demons and devils will avoid me. With a chant, a brilliant golden light blossomed from Xiao Feng's body. His majestic aura was like the Vajra's glare, making one unable to look straight at him. Virtuous draconic force, Vajra strength. With another chant, the image of the 8th Division Heavenly Dragon flashed in the golden light. A vast amount of energy surged within Xiao Feng's body. Immovable mountain, no evils can invade. Moving mountains and filling seas, mighty warrior. With the third chant, Xiao Feng's body emitted an explosive sound. Endless golden light condensed on the surface of his body. Xiao Feng's entire body was like a Vajra warrior made of pure gold. Vajra glare, Vajra scepter destroys demons. Brilliant golden light erupted from the Vajra scepter in his hand. A monstrous aura was displayed. Xiao Feng took a step forward and the entire mountain shook. His golden figure charged up like lightning. He raised the Vajra scepter high up in the air and charged towards Yinshan. He used the Vajra blessing spell, dragon and elephant Vajra strength, immovable as mountains, and mountain-moving force in succession. Then, he used the Vajra exorcism pestle to perform the demon sweeping pestle. With the boundless power and the four great abilities, Xiao Feng was at the peak of the Do Huang level. A one-star Do zone like Yin Shan was nothing. Damn it, Xiao Feng's aura was too terrifying. Yin Shan hastily seized the opportunity and unleashed dozens of sword beams that were as black as ink. He unleashed dozens of gigantic pitch-black claws in succession. However, just as these attacks reached Xiao Feng, under the dazzling golden light from Xiao Feng's body, the black gas from the wailing spirits instantly dissipated. They couldn't affect Xiao Feng at all. The dozens of attacks couldn't even stop Xiao Feng's footsteps. The dazzling golden figure rushed in front of Yin Shan. The mighty Vajra demon subduing pestle was raised high into the air and smashed down heavily. Bang! Monstrous divine might and boundless might were all contained in a single strike. Under the tremendous power, even space seemed to have been shattered by this attack. Yun Shan, who had taken this blow, once again followed in Yun Suo's footsteps. His entire body exploded into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Not even his bones remained. Horrified screams echoed throughout the entire mountain peak. The Misty Cloud sect disciples were already scared silly. Now, what kind of terrifying strength was this? Who else? Xiao Feng shouted. Holding the Vajra demon subduing pestle, he looked around. Everyone lowered their heads. No one dared to even breathe loudly. Monstrous God's might was terrifying. At this moment, this invincible figure was deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts. A bunch of useless chickens and pottery dogs. Ha! Xiao Feng held the Vajra demon subduing pestle and laughed loudly. Even a Do zone was defeated with one strike. My brother. What? What is his background? Xiao Yin raised his head and looked at the majestic Xiao Feng in front of him. The expression in his eyes was extremely strange. My brother, could it be that you've also transmigrated? Were you a monk in your previous life? Kid, this brother of yours is too terrifying. Yao Lao's long sigh sounded in his mind. It seemed that even he was frightened by Xiao Feng's power. Brother Feng, Xiao Yin took a deep breath and excitedly walked to Xiao Feng's side. He lowered his head and looked at the Vajra demon subduing pestle in Xiao Feng's hand. Brother Feng, this is my weapon. Teacher gave it to me. Xiao Feng laughed and waved the Vajra demon subduing pestle in his hand. This thing's power is not bad. Power is not bad. Xiao Yan's mouth twitched a few times. Even a Do zone was defeated with one strike. It's not just power is not bad. Of course, Xiao Yan's focus was on another aspect. Teacher? Xiao Yan frowned slightly. Could it be that Brother Feng didn't transmigrate? Looking up at Xiao Feng, Xiao Yin smiled and asked, Brother Feng, are you from the Shaolin Temple? Xiao Yin used the language of another world when he said this. What? What did you say? Xiao Feng obviously couldn't understand Xiao Yan's words. This kind of cadence language seemed magical, but he couldn't understand. You don't understand? Xiao Yin nodded secretly, and then asked Xiao Feng eagerly, Brother Feng, where is your teacher? Can you let me meet him? I want to ask him something? Huh? Xiao Feng was somewhat inexplicable by Xiao Yan's request, and quickly asked the Supreme Pill Spirit, Teacher, this matter, don't worry about him. The Supreme Pill Spirit scolded, If he asks again, you tell him, I am the Supreme Pill Spirit. This humble Taoist. Xiao Feng had to recite the words this humble Taoist in his heart a few times before he was able to recite them completely. I'm sorry. Xiao Feng smiled bitterly and touched his head. I just sent a message to teacher, and teacher said that he doesn't want to see you. Xiao Yan's face fell, and he was a little dejected. That? Brother Feng, what is the origin of your teacher? Do you know his name? Oh, I know this. Xiao Feng smiled and said to Xiao Yin, Teacher said that his name is I the Supreme Pill Spirit. I the Supreme Pill Spirit. Hearing these four familiar words, Xiao Yin was shocked. It should be the Supreme Pill Spirit? It turned out to be him? But isn't he the founder of Taoism? Why did he teach Brother Feng all the Buddhist magical skills? Xiao Yin was completely confused. Xiao Feng, Boy, did you see the cultivation method that those people used just now? Using the power of the soul to cultivate. It's ghostly and resentful. As the guardian Vajra, you should expiate them. At this time, the supreme pill spirit's voice sounded in Xiao Feng's mind. Cultivation using the power of the soul? Xiao Feng looked around at the black fog that had not completely dissipated. Thinking of the mournful cries in it, he nodded. This kind of cultivation method was really evil. Remove all karma and obtain a pure land. Namo Amitabha Night. The rebirth mantra sounded from Xiao Feng's mouth, and the brilliant golden brilliance rippled with the sound, like warm spring water washing away all the evil in the world. Under the instructions of the supreme pill spirit, Xiao Feng used the thunderclap demon-subduing mantra when he recited the rebirth mantra. Every incantation was like a spring thunder. With the sound of thunder, the golden brilliance washed, and the whole peak of the Yunlan sect was bathed in the brilliant divine brilliance. The radiant and holy aura spread out, and those who were contaminated with evil methods or had cultivated evil methods were washed away by this brilliant brilliance. The aura on their bodies was no longer evil, and they returned to their original appearance. Among them was Nalan Yinran. Nalan Yinran was bewitched by the first elder and cultivated the evil method of the soul hall to absorb souls. Her mind was eroded by all kinds of soul distractions, and she had been muddle-headed until now. Recalling all the things that happened before, Nalan Yinran's heart was filled with sadness, and she fell to the ground and cried. Chapter 124. Xiao Feng and Xiao Yin left the Yunlan sect together. The remaining loose ends were left to Gu Yi and the others. Xiao Feng didn't have the heart to deal with them, because Li Yu's mission had already been issued. Xiao Feng's current strength was no weaker than a Dozong's. Adding on his triple blue-eyed flower eyes and ancient void dragon blood, it wouldn't be much of a problem for him to search for ancient ruins in the depths of the Beast region. After watching the Yunlan sect show, Liu curled his lips. The Soul Race only had such tricks up their sleeves. They'd tricked the Yunlan sect into coming forward, but they themselves hadn't. They were too petty. Of course, Liu was just standing there and talking. Wu Yuan City had shrouding Heaven Emperor's slap. He'd left the mark of a battle emperor on the ground. In the entire Jiama Empire, or even in the northwestern part of the continent, who would dare cause trouble? Were they tired of living? Liu also didn't have the heart to deal with the Soul Hall. Even Xiao Feng had been ordered to go to the Beast region. Naturally, the Soul Hall would be left to Xiao Yin to run through dungeons. Departing from Yunlan's sect, Xiao Feng flew through the air on his battle chi wings. The Beast region was extremely far away. Xiao Feng spent an entire month to arrive at the 100,000 great mountains of the Beast region. The mountains were verdant and the forests were lush. When Xiao Feng saw the vast scenery, he couldn't help but feel shocked. They landed on top of a mountain. They were about to enter the depths of the Beast region. Xiao Feng had to make some preparations. Xiao Feng, brat, I used the ancient void dragon blood from last time to refine a bracelet. We're on your wrist. With the ancient void dragon's aura as a deterrent, ordinary magical beasts won't attack you. The supreme elixir spirit threw out a bracelet with a blood-colored gem on it. Xiao Feng hurriedly picked it up and put it on his wrist. A faint dragon's might spread out, and the various birds, beasts, and insects near Xiao Feng immediately fled in panic. It seems to be quite useful. Xiao Feng smiled, and then he continued on his way with his wings of light. The supreme pill spirit's knowledge came from Yao Lao's lifetime of knowledge. Originally, his understanding of the Beast region was far from enough. However, after Liu obtained the ancient world's heavenly tomb, he extracted the knowledge of all the soul bodies in the heavenly tomb and made a copy for the supreme pill spirit. In this way, the knowledge and experience of the supreme alchemy spirit could be said to be terrifying to the extreme. There were really not many things that he did not know. With the correct direction, Xiao Feng flew all the way to the Skeleton Mountain Range. The ancient ruins were in the Skeletal Mountain Range, but this territory was the lair of the 9 Abyss Python. As one of the three major powers of the magical beast world, the Nine Abyss Python was far weaker than the dragon race and the heavenly demon phoenix race. However, it was not something that Xiao Feng could look down on. When Xiao Feng saw a mountain range piled with countless white skeletons in the distance, he immediately descended and put away the dragon's might bracelet on his wrist. The dragon's might bracelet could scare away all low-level magical beasts, but the Nine Abyss Python was not. The dragon's might from the blood of an infant dragon was only at the infant level. Not only would this level of dragons might not scare the Nine Abyss Python, it would even draw it over. After all, swallowing an infant dragon would be greatly beneficial to the Nine Abyss Python. The system's aura concealment function was activated. Xiao Feng's aura immediately disappeared. He was completely like a walking stone. In this way, Xiao Feng's aura could no longer be sensed by magical beasts. Xiao Feng carefully advanced towards the skeletal mountain range. Not long after, he silently snuck into the skeletal mountain range. Have I arrived at the skeletal mountain range? Liu received the report from the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit and quickly connected to the system. Xiao Feng doesn't have the strength to fight the Nine Abyss Python head-on yet. He can't use the Triple Flower Eyes to sweep through the entire Nine Abyss Python clan yet. It would be best if he could sneak in quietly. Thinking of this, Liu ordered the system, remotely connect to the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit and search for the location of the ancient ruins. The ancient ruins were hidden by someone using a space formation. In fact, its main body was an ancient palace that was as huge as a mountain. After an invisible wave swept through, the system immediately displayed the location of the ancient ruins. Send the location of the ancient ruins to the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit. Liu glanced at the location of the ancient ruins and continued to give orders. System, use Xiao Feng's location as the base and start search scan. Find a suitable Nine Abyss Python for Xiao Feng to control with the Triple Flower Eyes. Scan complete. The system completed the task in an instant. Liu looked at the pitch-black giant snake displayed by the system and nodded with a smile. Xiao Feng boy, I'm here to send you a mount. Liu smiled and snapped his fingers. System, send the location of this Nine Abyss Python to the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit in the Bone Mountain Range. Xiao Feng, who had restrained his aura, followed the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit's instructions and quietly approached a huge cave. Teacher, is there a Nine Abyss Python in here? Xiao Feng looked up at the pitch-black cave, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. If I can use the Triple Flower Eyes to control this snake, the rest of the journey will be much easier. Sneaking into the cave quietly, Xiao Feng saw the giant black snake sleeping in the cave at a glance. Quietly walking to the front of the giant black snake, Xiao Feng waved the Vajra exorcism pestle and knocked the giant snake on its nose. Roar! The black serpent roared in shock and anger and abruptly opened its pair of dark green eyes. Then the black snake only saw a pair of eyes. Three mysterious golden runes in the shape of flower petals kept spinning around the pitch-black eyes, as if forming a whirlpool. The black serpent felt the world spin, and its entire soul was pulled into the whirlpool that was spinning nonstop. Three dark golden patterns flashed in the black snake's eyes. Xiao Feng found that he could already control this black snake at will. The Triple Flower Eyes is indeed tyrannical. Looking at the vast aura in front of him, the Nine Abyss Python, whose strength was at least above the Do Huang level, was controlled just like that. Xiao Feng was definitely a little surprised. He was already very satisfied with the power of the Triple Flower Eyes. It's only better for snake-type magical beasts. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit smiled. Xiao Feng boy, after you hide your aura, you can ride this black snake to the ancient ruins. With the black snake's aura covering, the possibility of you being exposed is very low. Xiao Feng turned around and sat on the black snake's back. With a thought, he drove the black snake out of the cave and directly rushed to the ancient ruins. For a powerful race like the Nine Abyss Python, every Nine Abyss Python had its own vast territory. The snake that the system found for Xiao Feng just happened to belong to the area of activity of the ancient ruins. Xiaofeng sat on the back of the nine-abyss python and flew all the way. They quickly arrived at the basin where the ancient era's ruins were located. Teacher, is the ancient ruins here? How can we go in? Xiaofeng jumped down from the nine-abyss python's back and turned his head to look for a while, but he couldn't find any clues about the existence of the ruins. I have my own way. Just you wait. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit laughed and reported the situation to Li Yu. System, scan the space array hidden in the ancient ruins. Use the energy to open a passage and let Xiaofeng in. The ancient ruins were right in front of him. Li Yu quickly gave the system an order. An invisible wave swept past, and a hole with a slight flicker of light suddenly appeared in front of Xiaofeng. Is this the ancient ruins? Xiaofeng looked at the hole in front of him and smiled. He stepped into it. Please support the original. Please subscribe to the original. Chapter 125. He stepped into the ancient ruins. In front of them was a huge, ancient palace that towered like a mountain. The work of an ancient Dosheng is indeed extraordinary. The aperture behind Xiaofeng closed. When Xiaofeng saw this huge, ancient palace, he exclaimed in admiration. The Doqi light wings flapped. Xiaofeng soared into the sky and flew towards the ancient palace. After a while, Xiaofeng stopped at the entrance of the ancient palace. The huge stone door was tightly shut. A huge force was circulating in the runes on the door. Even with Xiaofeng's current strength, he did not dare to touch it. Is there a seal? The Grand Elixir Spirit came out of the ring. He looked at the seal on the door and smiled. It's nothing. He waved his hand at the door. The Grand Elixir Spirit used the recovery function of the small and medium-sized resource storage in the ring to draw out all the energy sealed on the door. The seal disappeared. Xiaofeng gently pushed the door, and the door opened. A monstrous heat wave rolled in. In front of him was a flaming passage. He actually set up a flaming passage. This thing shouldn't be able to stop anyone, right? What did this Dosheng leave behind this flaming passage for? Xiaofeng looked at the flaming passage and was puzzled. It's just deliberately mystifying. The Grand Elixir Spirit snorted in disdain. Kid, I just need to replenish my energy. I'll take these flames. The Grand Elixir Spirit waved his hand at the flames in front of him. An invisible black hole appeared in front of him. The huge suction force sucked the flames in the passage. Not long after, there were no more sparks in the passage. Let's go. The Grand Elixir Spirit waved his hand and walked into the passage. After walking along the passage for a while, the Supreme Elixir Spirit stopped and pointed to a lava lake outside the passage. He turned to Xiaofeng and said with a smile, "The real entrance is here. Jump down." The entrance is here? It's really deliberately mystifying. Xiaofeng smiled and nodded. The great sun fire lotus rose from his body and covered his body. He jumped down from the passage and entered the lava lake. After passing through the lava lake, a long passageway appeared in front of them. Walking along the corridor, the two of them arrived at a small plaza. At the end of the square, there was a thick and heavy stone door. In front of the stone door, 10 silhouettes were standing straight like javelins. These 10 figures did not move at all. Their eyes were empty, and their faces were as stiff as statues. Xiaofeng frowned slightly at the sight of these puppet-like figures. It's just a puppet. Supreme Elixir Spirit smiled. His figure flashed and appeared in front of these puppets. Li Yu, who had been monitoring the situation through the system, immediately issued an order to the system. System, scan and control these puppets. The Supreme Pill Spirit waved his hand and borrowed the power of the system to instantly control this group of puppets. The strength of these puppets was not weak. They were at least at the peak of the Dozone class. Although puppets of this strength were basically useless to Li Yu, the method of creating puppets was a little useful. After the system scanned the puppet and recorded the puppet's information, it handed it over to the Supreme Pill Spirit to handle. Boy, this is a good thing. After the Supreme Pill Spirit controlled the puppets, he waved his hand to activate them. He led a group of silvery, flickering puppets with a shocking aura toward Xiaofeng. Teacher, this thing has a very strong strength. Seeing the shocking aura emitted from the puppets, Xiaofeng could not help but be shocked. Each puppet has the strength of a peak dozong. Boy, use your spiritual strength to imprint a seal on them. These dozong puppets will be under your control. The Supreme Elixir Spirit said casually. They actually have the strength of a peak dozong? Xiaofeng was so shocked that he could not speak. What did it mean to have 10 more peak dozongs under him? With one dozong, the Yunlin sect could dominate the Jiama Empire. The Wind Alliance, which had conquered a large territory in the Black Corner region, only had Medusa as a true dozong. With his strength, they could flatten the entire Black Corner region in minutes. With his strength, they could crush the few countries in the northwest of the continent at any time if they wanted to. This trip to the ancient ruins is really profitable. Xiaofeng looked at the Supreme Pill Spirit gratefully and quickly released his spiritual strength. According to the Supreme Pill Spirit's guidance, he imprinted a spiritual imprint on each puppet. His mind was connected to each puppet. Xiaofeng could control and command these puppets at will. At this moment, the heavy stone door at the end of the square slowly opened. A desolate and ancient aura came out from behind the door. All right, the real ancient ruins are inside. The Supreme Pill Spirit pointed at the open door and signaled to Xiaofeng. Let's go. Xiaofeng waved his hand in high spirits and led the group of puppets into the door. In front of them was a huge palace. The Supreme Pill Spirit glanced at the palace and activated the system's small-range scanning function. It directly scanned the structure of the entire ruins. Within this ancient remains, the things that Li Yu is truly concerned about were the Dragon Phoenix remains and the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit in the medicinal hall, the pill beast that was formed from the medicinal pills in the pill hall, and the Dosheng remains in the main hall. The Dragon and Phoenix remains and the Dosheng remains could be used as building materials for the merchant city. The Dragon and Phoenix origin fruits could be used to go to the Void Lightning Pool from the Dragon Island. It was fine to study the pill beasts formed by the pills. Kid, the main hall is in front. There is a peak Dosheng remains. I have a use for it. Let's go and collect it first. As it spoke, the Supreme Pill Spirit walked toward the main hall. After passing through a walkway, the two of them arrived at the main hall. This was a copper-yellow hall. The deep copper-yellow color emitted an ancient aura. In the center of the hall, there were 10 huge balls of light. The balls of light floated in the air and shone with a dazzling light. Within the light, scrolls were faintly discernible. In the center of the 10 balls of light, there was a stone seat. On the stone seat, there was a jade-white skeleton that seemed to be carved from white jade. Its hands formed a seal, and it sat cross-legged. An aura as vast as the might of heaven and earth was emitted from the skeleton. Looking at the scene in front of him, Xiaofeng's lips were a little dry. It was not the first time he had seen a Dosheng. During the trip to the ancient realm, he had seen Xiao Sun Heir's father, Gu Yuan. However, the aura emitted by the skeleton seemed to be stronger than Gu Yuan's. That kind of domineering aura that could shake the world was obviously not something that Gu Yuan possessed. The skeleton of an ancient Dosheng is still okay. I'll just make do with it. The Supreme Pill Spirit glanced at the Dosheng skeleton and nodded slightly. Looking at the expression on its face, it seemed that it was not very satisfied. Xiaofeng was speechless. Please support the original. Please subscribe to the original. Chapter 126. Teacher, what are the scrolls and the balls of light? Xiaofeng raised his head and saw the 10 balls of light floating above the Dosheng skeleton and asked the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit. It's just a heaven-class beginner Do technique. You even deliberately mystified it by making 9 fake and 1 real. How petty! The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit curled his lips in disdain. Heaven-class Do technique. Xiaofeng nodded and did not have much interest. According to the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit, the few remarkable abilities that he cultivated were all above heaven-class Do techniques. He did not fancy a mere heaven-class beginner Do technique. Since teacher needs this skeleton, I'll go and get it. Xiao Feng smiled at the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit and walked towards the Do Sheng skeleton. Don't move. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit pulled Xiao Feng and pointed at the 10 stone platforms around the skeleton. On the 10 huge stone platforms, there were 10 statues of different shapes and sizes. Kid, don't move. Those statues. Do you still remember those puppets at the door? The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit smiled at Xiao Feng and pouted at the 10 Do Zone puppets behind Xiao Feng. Puppets. Xiao Feng's expression changed. He pointed at the statues on the stone platforms and asked the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit, Teacher, are these also puppets? Yes, and they are puppets with the strength of a Do Zune. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit laughed. Kid, I'll get you another 10 Do Zune puppets as your subordinates. How about it? Do Zune, 10 subordinates? Xiao Feng was already incoherent. Xiao Feng had already fainted from the surprise of the 10 Do Zone puppets from before. At this moment, with another 10 Do Zune puppets, Xiao Feng felt that his blood vessels were about to explode. 10 Do Zune puppets. With this group of puppets, he should be able to sweep the world, right? Even a Do Shang would be surrounded and killed by 10 Do Zune puppets and 10 Do Zone puppets. No? Is this all you've got? The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit curled his lips and waved at the 10 Do Zune puppets on the stone platforms. Li Yu immediately let the system control the 10 Do Zune puppets. Kid, with me protecting you, what is a Do Zune? Broaden your horizons. The Grand Pill Spirit waved his hand, and the 10 Do Zune puppets were activated. They leaped down from the stone seats and arrived beside the two of them. Yes, disciple understands. Xiao Feng took a deep breath and bowed to the Supreme Elixir Spirit. Thank you for your concern, teacher. Disciple is grateful. All right. The Supreme Elixir Spirit waved his hand. Control these puppets. Xiao Feng followed the instructions of the Grand Supreme Pill Spirit and placed a spiritual imprint on the 10 Do Zune puppets to control them. Xiao Feng walked to the front of the Do Sheng skeleton. He waved his hand and kept the Do Sheng skeleton. Xiao Feng smiled when he saw the 10 balls of light floating in the air. Teacher, although I don't like these things, I can't waste them. Let's keep them together. Xiao Feng waved his hand again and kept the 10 balls of light into his ring. All right, let's go to the next place. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit directly handed the Do Sheng skeleton to Li Yu after he had finished plundering everything in the main hall. After which, he brought Xiao Feng to the medicine hall to collect the dragon and phoenix skeletons. Is this the Do Sheng skeleton? Li Yu smiled and nodded when he saw the Do Sheng skeleton handed over by the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit. System, scan the Do Sheng skeleton and see if there is anything special about the Do Sheng's body structure in this world. The system instantly scanned the Do Sheng skeleton and sent the result to Li Yu. There doesn't seem to be anything special. Why is it that the Do Sheng of this world can open up space? Li Yu frowned. System, is the space structure of this world more loose? The current world space energy activity is higher, and the space strength is lower. I see. Li Yu nodded. He already understood what was going on. The space energy of this world was indeed more active. Storage rings were almost everywhere. There were all kinds of space arrays everywhere. All kinds of small worlds and small spaces were very common. In this kind of world, it was not strange for a Do Sheng to be able to open up space. In the ancient ruins, Xiao Feng and the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit walked into a door that emitted a rich medicinal fragrance. Wow, these are medicinal herbs? These are all medicinal herbs? After passing through the door, they saw a huge and boundless forest. However, what grew in the forest were not trees, but huge stalks of medicinal herbs. This was a vast and boundless forest of medicinal herbs. Xiao Feng was shocked by this scene. These medicinal herbs are not bad. Many of them are even medicinal herbs from ancient times. Looks like this Do Sheng was also a great alchemist back then. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit smiled and nodded. Then he reminded Xiao Feng, Kid, there are still many ancient magical beasts living in this medicinal forest. Put on the dragon's might bracelet to prevent any magical beasts from running over. Xiaofeng nodded and put on the dragon's might bracelet. Then, under the guidance of the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit, the group rushed to the location of the dragon and phoenix remains. Not long after, the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit and Xiaofeng arrived at the center of the forest. This was a flat grassland that looked very ordinary. However, an inexplicable aura lingered on the grassland. The surroundings were completely silent. Not even the sounds of birds, beasts, insects, and ants could be heard. This place, Xiaofeng's expression became serious. He felt a majestic pressure enveloping his surroundings. Even with his current strength, he felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on his body. This is our destination. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit smiled and looked at Xiaofeng. He stretched out his hand and said, "Give me the remaining drops of dragon blood in the ring." Xiaofeng quickly took out the bottle containing the dragon blood from the ring. After refining the dragon's might bracelet, there were still a few drops of dragon blood left from Ziyan. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit took the bottle, waved his hand, and took out a drop of dragon blood from the bottle. He flicked his finger in front of him. Buzz! A brilliant golden light screen appeared in front of them. A vast and majestic aura was emitted from the golden light screen. A pressure from the soul enveloped the surroundings. Crack! Crack! The golden light screen made a cracking sound, revealing a huge crack. "Let's go." The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit waved his hand at Xiaofeng. The two of them stepped into the crack together. It was as if they had stepped into another world. In front of them was a desolate plain. This plain was covered with crimson sand. It looked like it was stained with blood, revealing a tragic aura of iron and blood. In the center of the plain, there was a huge stone altar that was hundreds of feet tall. A huge majestic aura spread out from the altar. Xiaofeng only felt a stifling feeling in his chest. What a terrifying pressure. This is the power of the ancient void dragon and the ancient heavenly phoenix. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit smiled and led Xiaofeng to the huge stone altar. In the center of the altar, a small tree stood in the middle. The small tree was only as thick as a thumb, but it was like a winding dragon. At the top of this small sapling, a fruit hung. This fruit was about the size of a palm, and it was golden and purple in color. The golden half twisted and turned into a tiny golden dragon, while the purple half was a phoenix with its wings spread out and danced in the air. Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit. Not bad. It can be planted in the garden. Liu saw this scene through the system connection and could not help but laugh. Please support the original. Please subscribe to the original. Chapter 127. Xiaofeng, come here. The Supreme Elixir Spirit waved at Xiaofeng and bent down to uproot the small tree with dragon-like roots and phoenix-like leaves. Take it away. This thing is useless to you, but it's a peerless treasure to the dragon race. With this thing, you can extort the dragon race when you reach the Dragon Island. Xiaofeng obeyed and kept the small tree and the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit into his ring. Then, the Supreme Elixir Spirit handed it over to Liu. The Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit contains the origin energy of a dragon and a phoenix. This thing is really useless to me. Liu glanced at the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit and shook his head. If one was not from the dragon race or the phoenix race, they would not be able to absorb the origin energy within. Other than extracting the energy within, it was worthless. Instead, using this thing to go to the Dragon Island to collect the Void Lightning Pool would be a good deal. I can keep this strange small tree and plant it in the Immortal Mansion Garden in the future. Liu waved his hand and returned the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit to the Supreme Elixir Spirit. Then, through the system connection, he remotely opened the system's resource library and planned to collect the dragon and phoenix corpses. In the ancient ruins, the Supreme Elixir Spirit pointed at the traces on the blood-colored ground and said to Xiaofeng, "Xiaofeng, this is your harvest. An ancient void dragon and an ancient heavenly phoenix died here. Their corpses are buried here. The supreme elixir spirit smiled. Xiao Feng, your dragon elephant Vajra divine power, this ability has never been able to reach large success because you lack a dragon soul. As long as you collect this ancient void dragon soul, your dragon elephant Vajra divine power will be able to reach large success. Dragon soul? That's great. Hearing the supreme elixir spirit's words, Xiao Feng was overjoyed. With the dragon soul in the dragon elephant Vajra divine power, he would have the power of an ancient void dragon. At that time, his physical strength would be very terrifying. Open the spatial ring. I'm going to collect the dragon and phoenix corpses. The supreme elixir spirit instructed and opened the system resource vault. He waved his hand toward the blood-colored ground. An invisible wave swept across the ground. A huge force directly pulled out two gigantic corpses that were 3,000 meters long from the ground. A dragon and a phoenix. As soon as the huge corpse rose from the ground, the roar of a huge dragon and the cry of a heavenly phoenix could be faintly heard. A vast aura covered the sky and covered the earth. Withdraw. A huge formless black hole appeared above the dragon phoenix carcass. A huge suction force instantly sucked in the dragon phoenix carcass, and it disappeared in an instant. Good. I finally got my hands on the dragon and phoenix corpses. Liu was overjoyed when he saw the dragon and phoenix corpses in the resource warehouse. With the corpses of the dragons and phoenixes, the construction materials for the stronghold were sufficient. System scanned the dragon and phoenix corpses and analyzed their body structure. Liu was rather curious about the dragon and phoenix races in this world. Although the strength of the dragon and phoenix races in this world was a little low and could not be compared to the immortal level strength of the true dragons and true phoenixes. However, Liu couldn't find any divine beasts like the true dragon and true phoenix. He could only study the dragon and phoenix races in this world. Scan complete. Analysis complete. The data has been recorded. Very good. Liu nodded. Extract the dragon and phoenix bloodline from the dragon and phoenix corpses and store them in the resource warehouse. Extract the remnant soul of the dragon and phoenix. Send the dragon soul back to the supreme elixir spirit. After arranging everything, Liu didn't pay any more attention to it. Now that he had the dragon and phoenix corpses, he just had to follow the plan, and he would be able to obtain the void lightning pool. Then, he would go and collect the Bodhi ancient tree. That was basically it. In the ancient ruins, Xiao Feng and the supreme elixir spirit walked out of the medicine hall and headed straight to the next destination, the pill hall. Before opening the door, the faint pill smell that leaked out made one feel comfortable. Be careful. There's only a fine line between pills and poisons. It's not difficult for a pharmacist to refine poisons. So, before entering the pill hall, you have to be prepared. When Xiao Feng was about to open the door of the pill hall, he suddenly heard the supreme elixir spirit's reminder. He was shocked and quickly held his breath. He took out an antidote pill and put it in his mouth. He reached out and opened the door of the pill hall. In front of him was a 3-story hall. He was currently on the first floor of the hall. In the first floor of the hall, there were all kinds of pills and jade bottles. Xiao Feng didn't even bother to look at them. He waved his hand and kept all the pills and jade bottles into his ring. It's indeed poisonous. Xiao Feng could feel that the battle qi in his body was gradually becoming obstructed. The circulation of his battle qi was already somewhat obstructed. Xiao Feng knew that the poison was beginning to invade his body. Xiao Feng, kid, use the King Kong blessing spell. With the protection of the King Kong, all evils will be avoided. The poison won't be able to invade you. The King Kong blessing spell can be used to avoid poison. Xiao Feng was a little surprised. He immediately chanted an incantation. A ray of golden light shone on the surface of his body. The surrounding poison couldn't invade him anymore. He stepped onto the second floor. Other than some pills and jade bottles, Xiao Feng also found a few old pill recipes. He kept all of them into his ring. The attic on the third floor was smaller. There weren't many items placed there, but they were all very precious. When Xiao Feng waved his hand and kept the few jade bottles and an old scroll, he suddenly realized that there was a little beast with white fur curled up in the corner. This little beast looked like a cat, but its body was very plump. It was round and looked very honest. However, there weren't any energy waves in its body. It seemed like an ordinary little beast. There's such a fat white cat here. When Xiao Feng saw this fat white cat, he opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it for a long time. This pill hall was filled with poison. Even with Xiao Feng's strength, he could only reach the 3rd floor with the protection of the King Kong body. Now, this fat cat that didn't have any energy waves was actually sleeping in the corner. This fat cat was definitely not ordinary. There's actually a transformation elixir? Just when Xiao Feng was bewildered, he suddenly heard the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit's surprised voice. Elixir? Transformation elixir? Teacher, this fat cat is an elixir? When Xiao Feng heard the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit's words, he didn't come back to his senses for a long time. It's just a transformation elixir. It's not strange. If a high-level magical beast can transform, a high-level elixir will naturally be able to transform too. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit chuckled and waved his hand at the curled-up fat white cat. An invisible wave pulled the fat white cat up. Woo-woo! The fat white cat screamed and kept struggling. However, it couldn't break free from the force that was pulling it up. Grabbing the fat white cat in his hand, the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit smiled and glanced at the fat white cat in his hand. Yes, a level 8 elixir that's close to level 9. It has lived for many years, absorbed the spiritual energy of the pill hall, and swallowed the elixirs in the pill hall. Now it has just gained intelligence not long ago. No wonder it's still in its beast form. Swallowed the elixirs in the pill hall. Xiao Feng was shocked. He quickly took out the elixir jade bottles from the 1st and 2nd floor. With a glance, the bottles were indeed empty. He was afraid that the elixir beast had eaten all these elixirs. This thing is still an elixir beast in essence. Keep it. As the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit spoke, he passed the elixir beast to Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng quickly kept it in his ring. Xiao Feng's ring was a small resource storage. After putting in the ring, Liu could directly control it through the system. Scan the elixir beast. Liu was also somewhat curious about the fact that this world's medicinal pills could take form and develop spiritual intelligence. However, he was just curious. After the scan, Liu was too lazy to care about it anymore. Please support the original. Please subscribe to the original. Chapter 128. I've got the dragon and phoenix corpses, as well as the battle sage corpses. Liu looked at the materials that appeared in the resource warehouse and nodded with a smile. Now, I can consider the problem of the shopping center. System, introduce the functions of the shopping center. Since he was going to build the shopping center, Liu had to figure out the functions of the shopping center. This was very important for him to arrange the shopping center. Other than being the system's anchor point, the shopping center can also be customized by the user. The function settings cannot exceed the user's authority. I can also customize the functions of the shopping center. Hearing the system's explanation, Liu already had an idea in his mind. Since it's called a shopping center, it must have the functions of a shop. Then I'll sell some things. Cultivation techniques, fighting skills, pills, pill recipes, and all kinds of treasures can be sold. Thinking of this, Liu laughed. After collecting the heavenly tomb, Liu extracted the knowledge, cultivation techniques, and fighting skills of the countless soul energy bodies in the heavenly tomb. There were more than a dozen battle sages in the heavenly tomb, hundreds of half-saints, and thousands of dozu. With these people's cultivation techniques and fighting skills, the supply was very sufficient. As for pills, with old Yao's knowledge, he could get others to bring the materials and use the system's resource warehouse to directly synthesize pills. It was more convenient than a pharmacist. As for all kinds of treasures, did the strange fire count? After scanning the green lotus hellfire, Liu could create it at any time. Selling the strange fire in batches would scare a lot of people. Very good. After thinking about it, Liu is already looking forward to this shop. Shop? No. This world seems to be very popular with auctions. Then, let's build an auction house. Of course, the shopping center's auction house function was not the main function. As the system's anchor point in this world, the shopping center must ensure a long-term and stable existence. There were no long-lasting families in this world, nor were there eternal forces. But if there were none, wouldn't it be fine to just create one? A family or force supported by Li Yu could not be destroyed even if you wanted to. As an auction house, first of all, there must be an auctioneer. Then, there must be enough martial power and a strong bodyguard. Of course, the most important thing is to have an intelligent system that can control everything. Liu stood up with a smile and walked to the window. We already have a candidate for the auctioneer. The intelligent system was very easy. Just refer to the Supreme Pill Spirit and directly make one. As for the bodyguards, Liu reached out and knocked on the windowsill. A smile appeared on his face as he said, Xiao Feng will definitely soar into the sky and conquer the great wide world. We can't waste him here. Then I'll have to find another one. There are a few candidates. The old dragon that was locked up in the ancient emperor cave abode was strong enough, but he had been guarding the door for too long. If he continued to guard the door, he would definitely be resentful. Although it's not difficult to control him, his thoughts are too complicated and he doesn't have the motivation to work. It's not suitable. Then the Bodhi tree? This thing's strength was off the charts. It even dared to fight against the Do Di. Furthermore, plants were born with spiritual intelligence, and their minds were simple. I'll give him some benefits so that he can transform and then guard the door for me. That sounds like a good idea. Thinking of this, Liu had already made up his mind. Since that's the case, I'll make a trip to the ancient wasteland region myself and look for the Bodhi tree. The ancient wasteland region was located in the northeast of the Central Plains. It was very far from the Jiama Empire. However, to Liu, this distance was not a problem at all. Liu mobilized the power of the Green Lotus Emperor weapon from the Lotus Pond in the Merchant City space. With a single step, he crossed thousands of rivers and mountains. After the Green Lotus Emperor weapon was infused with the Lotus, Liu no longer needed to expend extra energy to mobilize the power of the Merchant City. Liu's figure appeared outside of a small town at the edge of the ancient wasteland region. Raising his head to look at the ancient wasteland region in front of him, Liu revealed a faint smile. In front of him was a primeval forest filled with an ancient aura. Giant trees hundreds of feet tall stood in the forest, their shadows covering the sky and the sun. At a glance, the forest was filled with heart-palpitating darkness. Occasionally, there would be waves of violent beast roars that made one's hair stand on end. The ancient wasteland region is indeed worthy of being called a forbidden land for humans. Liu could not help but sigh when he sensed the ferocious and tyrannical auras coming from the forest. Liu's figure flashed, and he stepped into the forest. System scanned the location of the Bodhi ancient tree. Following Liu's command, an invisible fluctuation instantly swept out. The location of the Bodhi ancient tree was immediately displayed in Liu's mind. Very good. Liu mobilized the power of the Green Lotus Emperor weapon and took a step forward. In the next instant, he appeared in front of the Bodhi ancient tree. What a big tree! The Bodhi ancient tree in front of him had a trunk with a diameter of dozens of feet. It stood in front of him like a pillar that supported the heavens and the earth. The Bodhi ancient tree's branches and leaves stretched out, its shade covering a radius of 10 miles. Waves of extremely dense, clear air spread out from the Bodhi ancient tree, rippling between heaven and earth. For a moment, strange phenomena appeared, as if it was a paradise. The majestic aura rippled from the Bodhi ancient tree, as vast as the sea and as deep as the abyss. Good fellow, it's actually so strong. It's indeed worthy of being called a tough guy who dared to fight with a fighter emperor. Liu looked at the Bodhisattva ancient tree in front of him and nodded his head in satisfaction. With this kind of strength, if it was not for the fact that it was eroded by the Dodi's soul after fighting with him, it is likely that it would have transformed long ago. Liu walked towards the Bodhi ancient tree. When Liu walked under the shade of the tree, the sound of branches twisting suddenly came from the Bodhi ancient tree. A huge rattan ball-like object wrapped in tree branches fell down from above. Creak! The entangled tree branches quickly unfurled, revealing 5 majestic figures. 5 figures stepped out of the rattan ball expressionlessly. As the 5 figures stepped out of the rattan ball, heaven and earth trembled violently. Their monstrous aura was like a tsunami. Sage to be, Liu smiled as he looked at the 5 figures walking over slowly. However, he realized that they were expressionless and their eyes were dull, as if they had completely lost their souls. So they're puppets. Liu glanced at the Bodhi ancient tree. The fact that the Bodhi ancient tree could control puppets surprised Liu. However, 5 sage to be. It just so happens that my auction house needs a few handymen. I can still make do with them if I accept them. Liu nodded and waved his hand lightly at the 5 figures walking over. The system's recovery function directly stored the 5 figures into the resource vault. Crash! The Bodhi ancient tree seemed to be enraged. Its huge branches twisted angrily. The huge branches twisted like dragons and attacked Liu. Really not friendly at all. Liu smiled and shook his head. You're also called the Bodhi ancient tree. However, I also have a Bodhi ancient tree in my garden. Why don't you say hello? With a thought, Liu released the aura of the Bodhi tree in the garden of the immortal residence. Buzz, the towering Bodhi ancient tree trembled violently. The entire tree emitted a brilliant light. Its branches drooped and fell to the ground. Its huge and straight trunk tilted forward, like a subject bowing to its king. Huh, at least you know what's good for you. Liu laughed and walked towards the Bodhi ancient tree. Please support the original. Please subscribe to the original. Chapter 129. Roar, roar. On the Bodhi tree, a burst of crazy roars suddenly rang out amidst the dazzling brilliance. Wisps of black chi kept churning within the brilliance. Oh, is this the remnant soul of a Dodi? After being destroyed, it still wants to borrow the power of the Bodhi ancient tree to revive? What a pity! It has fought with the Bodhi ancient tree for so many years and still hasn't won. Liu looked at the churning black chi and shook his head with a smile. Since I want the Bodhi ancient tree as my subordinate, I naturally have to help you solve this problem. Liu stretched out his hand and tapped the light on the Bodhi ancient tree. System, retrieve the remnant soul of a Dodi from the Bodhi ancient tree. An invisible wave swept past, and the black chi in the light let out a loud cry before disappearing without a trace. Wonk, the Bodhi ancient tree in front of him shone brightly, and the brilliant light turned into tiny specks of light that fell like rain. It was as if they were cheering, as if they were singing, as if they were expressing their gratitude to Liu. The light on the Bodhi ancient tree flowed, and a faint song flowed through the air. It seemed like the Bodhi ancient tree was worshipping and paying its respects to Liu. You really know how to bootlick. Liu smiled and placed his hand on the Bodhi ancient tree's trunk. Since you're so tactful, I'll give you some benefits. System, according to the principles of the triple flowering eyes, create a loyalty imprint and bind it to me. After that, place the imprint in the pure soul energy of the Azure Emperor's descendant and pour it into the Bodhi ancient tree to nourish the ancient tree spirit. Following Liu's command, a stream of pure spiritual power flowed into the Bodhi ancient tree's intelligence, and the ball of light on the tree's trunk shone even more brilliantly. The Azure Emperor's descendant was of the wood attribute and was extremely compatible with the Bodhi ancient tree. After the pure soul energy flowed into the tree, the ancient tree spirit grew rapidly. Boundless soul power surged within the ball of light, and within the dazzling brilliance, the ancient tree spirit grew rapidly as if it had been reborn. Boom! With a thunderous explosion, The brilliant brilliance suddenly exploded. Like a butterfly breaking out of its cocoon, a brand new ancient tree spirit was born. Of course, this was an ancient tree spirit that was absolutely loyal to Li Yu. Greetings, old ancestor. A middle-aged man's face appeared on the trunk of the Bodhi ancient tree, and he respectfully kowtowed to Li Yu. Unfortunately, he was still just a tree and could only bend his back a little. Because Li Yu exuded the aura of the Bodhi tree in the garden of the immortal mansion, the ancient tree directly regarded Li Yu as its ancestor and the source of its bloodline. The loyalty imprint did not face any resistance. The ancient tree was completely willing to be loyal to Li Yu. Yes, Li Yu nodded. Ancient tree, are you still unable to transform? With your strength, you should be able to transform, right? Transformation? What was transfiguration? Was it going to take on the appearance of the patriarch? I can do it. The ancient tree responded, after which the entire Bodhi ancient tree exploded with brilliance, and a huge Bodhi ancient tree continuously shrank in the brilliance. When the brilliance dissipated, a tall, middle-aged man with long, dark green hair and wearing a green robe appeared in front of Li Yu. Greetings, old ancestor. The ancient tree walked a few steps to Li Yu, knelt on the ground, and kowtowed heavily. Rise. Li Yu waved his hand and instructed the system in his mind. System, scan the ancient tree's strength and rank it according to the current world's Do-Chi level. The ancient tree's strength is equivalent to the peak of the Do-Sheng level. Peak of the Do-Sheng level? Li Yu frowned. This strength was very strong, but it did not have the power to intimidate the world. No one would dare to move against it. He had to raise it to the Do-D level first. Is the ancient tree stuck at the peak of the Do-Sheng level because it lacks the origin energy? What exactly is the origin energy? The origin energy of a world? Chaos gives birth to Tai Chi. Tai Chi gives birth to Yin and Yang. Tao gives birth to one. One gives birth to two. Two gives birth to three. Three gives birth to all things. At this thought, Li Yu's eyes lit up. The so-called origin energy is the chaos energy. Ancient tree, old ancestor will bestow upon you a fortune today. I will allow you to advance to the Do-D level. However, there are some risks involved. Are you willing to give a try? Li Yu lifted his eyes to look at the ancient tree standing in front of him, and a smile surfaced on his face. All right, Li Yu was going to scam him again. Was the chaos energy something that could be casually tested? If Li Yu guessed wrongly, the ancient tree would lose a layer of skin even if he did not die. Thank you, old ancestor. The ancient tree is willing to give a try. The ancient tree knelt in front of Li Yu once again. Since that's the case, I will bestow upon you a fortune. As he spoke, Li Yu drew out a strand of chaos energy from the store. System, monitor the changes on the ancient tree's body. Li Yu extended his hand and tapped the strand of chaos energy on the ancient tree's head. Boom! A majestic and boundless aura erupted from the ancient tree's body, and a green pillar of light shot up into the sky, straight into the clouds. An earth-shattering aura shook the world, and for a moment, the wind and clouds surged and the sky changed color. In the entire world, everyone who could sense the yuan qi of heaven and earth had a huge change in expression at this moment. At this moment, the yuan qi of heaven and earth was unprecedentedly violent, as if all the yuan qi of heaven and earth had been stirred up by a huge force. The peak figures of this world, all the battle saints, jumped up in shock at this moment. Their faces were filled with excitement, panic, envy, and depression. There's actually someone advancing to a battle emperor. Since ancient times, no one else has become a battle emperor. Today, there's actually someone advancing to a battle emperor. Shrouding Heaven Great Emperor has appeared. No one has noticed the phenomenon of him advancing to a battle emperor. So, Shrouding Heaven Great Emperor must be in existence from ancient times. Now, is this person advancing to a battle emperor? That direction, ancient wasteland region? What kind of existence is advancing to a battle emperor there? At this moment, the entire world changed. The existences who had been stuck at the peak of Battle Saint for countless years felt a surge of excitement in their hearts. There's actually someone advancing to a battle emperor. Why can't I? Not enough resources? Then I'll go snatch. Not enough training? Then I'll go fight. From this moment on, the situation of this world changed greatly. The 8 ancient clans walked out of their small worlds and began to roam the continent. The 3 great clans of the demon beast world, the ancient void dragon, the heaven demon phoenix, and the 9 abyss python all began to move around. The various top forces of the continent also began to make their moves. These clans, these forces collided on the continent, and the situation of the entire world would change greatly. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Li Yu. Ha ha, not bad, not bad. Looking at the ancient tree in front of him that seemed to have been reborn, Li Yu laughed out loud. So the so-called origin energy of this world was actually primal chaos energy? No, it should be weaker than primal chaos energy, but in essence, it was similar. A trace of primal chaos energy could create a battle emperor. To Li Yu, this was too easy. Many thanks, ancestor. At this moment, the ancient tree had already transformed into a tall and upright youth, no longer looking like a tall and strong middle-aged uncle. Not bad, not bad. Ancient tree, come with me. Yes. The 2 figures instantly disappeared from the ancient wasteland region. Update time, 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 18 p.m. Chapter 130. With a flash of light, Li Yu and the ancient tree appeared in the courtyard of Wuyuan City. Ancient tree, do you know anything about the human world? Li Yu asked the ancient tree as he walked to the backyard. Ancestor, I was corrupted by that remnant soul in the past. Because of his interference, an illusory realm was formed around the ancient tree. The 5 people who were taken in by you were lost in the illusory realm and died after their souls dissipated. At this point, the ancient tree smiled embarrassedly. I saw the life experiences of those 5 people in the illusion, so I know a little about the human world. That's good. Li Yu nodded and pointed at the courtyard of the shop. You can stay here for now. I have something for you to do. All right, just call me young master in the future. Don't call me old ancestor. Yes. The ancient tree bowed respectfully and then left. Li Yu returned to his room and began to deal with the 5 semi-sage puppets that he collected from the Bodhi ancient tree. The 5 semi-sage puppets had dispersed their souls in the illusion. Their bodies were still intact under the nourishment of the Bodhi ancient tree's energy. They were just like living people. Li Yu wanted to turn the merchant city into an auction house. Naturally, he needed some people to do odd jobs. These 5 half-saint puppets were more than enough. System, use the battle sage soul in the heavenly tomb as a model. Use the spiritual energy extracted from the heavenly tomb to create 5 pure battle sage souls. Use the energy in the heavenly tomb to create 5 intelligence equivalent to supreme pill spirits. Merge and control 5 battle sage souls. After Li Yu collected the heavenly tomb, he obtained a huge amount of energy from the heavenly tomb. He also obtained countless soul energy bodies. Although Li Yu had broken down these soul energies and extracted their knowledge, cultivation insights, battle experience, and pure soul energy, he was still able to do so. However, Li Yu habitually scanned the structure of these soul energy bodies. At this moment, the system used the spiritual energy to create 5 pure souls, according to the structure of a battle sage soul. After merging the intelligence created by the system, they were equivalent to 5 battle sage souls. Manufacturing complete. The system quickly followed Li Yu's request and created 5 battle sage souls that were infused with the system's intelligence. Very good. Li Yu nodded with a smile when he saw the 5 new souls in the resource warehouse. He then proceeded to the next step. System, refer to the body refinement method of this world and use the energy of the heavenly tomb to refine the 5 half-saint puppets. Although these 5 semi-sage puppets were well preserved, They were all middle-aged uncles and aunties. They didn't conform to Li Yu's aesthetic standards. After copying the knowledge of the old man in the ring and adding the knowledge of the countless souls in the heavenly tomb, the system had completely analyzed the method of refining a body in this world. Compared to the body created by Yao Lao's resurrection, the one created by the system would definitely be more perfect. User, please set the external parameters of the refined body. Age, gender, height, weight, and other external parameters need to be set. Yes, Liu nodded. Between the ages of 20 to 25, with 3 males and 2 females. The females are 1.6 to 1, 7 meters tall, while the males are 1.7 to 1, 8 meters tall. His weight was limited to the standard weight of an ordinary person. The specific parameters will be randomly selected. Parameters have been recorded. Do you want to start refining? Start refining. Following Liu's order, an invisible wave gushed out and the 5 semi-sage puppets slowly floated in the air. A gorgeous radiance enveloped the puppets. The 5 semi-sage puppets' bodies underwent intense changes. Their flesh, blood, tendons, bones, skin, and hair all underwent earth-shattering changes in an instant. When the radiance dispersed, 3 males and 2 females, 5 youthful figures appeared in front of Liu. The males were tall and handsome, while the females were pretty and graceful. Yes, Liu glanced at the 5 newly refined puppets and nodded with a smile. Now they look passable. System, load the refined, intelligent soul into these 5 puppets and activate them. Under Liu's command, the system immediately started to move. 5 spiritual lights flew out from Liu's fingertips and entered the space between the puppets' eyebrows. Immediately after, a series of soft heartbeats sounded and faint breathing sounds could be heard. The 5 puppets opened their eyes again. After the 5 semi-sage puppets were activated, the system's intelligence instantly took control of the entire puppets' bodies and rejuvenated them with boundless vitality. Greetings, my lord. After taking control of the bodies, the 5 puppets knelt in front of Liu. Yes, not bad. Liu nodded and waved at the 5 puppets. Get up. Yes. The 5 puppets stood up and stood solemnly in front of Liu. Yes, the 5 of you will split the work. Since they were going to be used for odd jobs, Liu naturally had to assign them work. Pointing at the 2 females among the 5, Liu said, "Of the 2 of you, one will be in charge of receiving and settling the guests in the auction house. The other will be in charge of delivering the auction items to the auction house." Yes, the 2 females bowed and accepted the order. As for the 3 of you, Liu turned his head and looked at the remaining 3 males. He pointed at 2 of them and said, "The 2 of you will be in charge of maintaining order at the auction house." Then, Liu looked at the last one and said with a smile, "As for you, you will be in charge of recovering, appraising, and keeping all kinds of materials." Yes, the 3 males bowed and accepted the order. Very good. Liu smiled and nodded. Then he instructed the system, according to the attributes of the battle energy in their bodies, load them with suitable battle skills and battle experience. Yes. Also, based on the knowledge and experience extracted from the heavenly tomb, load the corresponding knowledge according to their different division of labor. Order received. Another 5 rays of brilliance flew out from Liu's fingertips and landed in between the eyebrows of the 5 people. In the blink of an eye, countless battle skills, countless knowledge and experience were loaded into the intelligence core of the 5 people. Done. Liu smiled and glanced at the 5 of them. He said, "Give yourselves a name." Yes. The 5 of them replied in unison. "I cultivate a water cultivation technique. I will be called Shui Ro." The female who was in charge of receiving the guests smiled sweetly. Her exquisite figure was charming and moving. "I am from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. I will be called Qing Yao." The female who was in charge of delivering the auction items to the auction house said with a smile as she twirled her hair, "I will be called Gu Cheng." "I will be called Gu Zhe." The 2 males who were in charge of maintaining order at the auction house reported their names. Then I will be called Mu-Ching. The last male who was in charge of recovering and appraising the materials chuckled and came up with a name for himself. Yes, we have finished naming. You all know what we are going to do. Then get ready. Liu nodded at the five of them. Then he turned his head and looked outside the courtyard. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Next is the auctioneer. It seems that there is a ready-made candidate here. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.